Good evening, everyone. It is 6:03 p.m. on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. I'd like to welcome everyone present in our historic City Council chambers. I'd also like to welcome everyone in our City Council, um, excuse me, as who's watching on cable channel 22 and the Peoria YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali,
Present.
Councilmember Allen,
Present.
Councilmember Carmona,
Here.
Councilmember Sear,
Here.
Councilmember Gordon Young,
Present.
Councilmember Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Euler,
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach,
Here.
Councilmember Velpula,
Present.
Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Excellent. Everyone is here. This is our final meeting of, City Council meeting of 2025, and we have quite a full agenda tonight. Everyone, please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk,
We are at proclamations.
we have one proclamation tonight, and it is the 125th anniversary of Family Corps. I'd like to ask Family Corps' CEO, Ann Lading Ferguson, Family Corps' Chief Program Officer, Ron Tyler, Family Corps' President of the Board of Directors, Todd Hasty, and Family Corps' first Vice President of the Family Corps Board of Directors. First Vice President. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Whereas originally known as Associated Charities and Philanthropies, Family Corps has been dedicated to its central vision of strengthening families for a stronger community for 125 years. And whereas established as Associate Charities and Philanthropies in the Assembly Room of Peoria City Hall in 1900, the agency has operated as Family Corps since 2010. It has also been known as the Family Welfare Association of Peoria, Child and Family Services, Counseling and Family Service, and Counseling and Family Services. I remember all those names. No matter the name, Family Corps has consistently evolved to meet the needs of families while remaining rooted in its founding values. And whereas Family Corps provides services to 19,164 clients and families every year, the agency works with schools, the court system, and other social service agencies to connect counseling, intervention, preventative education, and other support services such as assistance with adoption and foster care, single-parent services, and youth outreach. Whereas Family Corps plans to continue its mission of instilling hope by creating the right balance of resources and care to foster and equip healthy, productive children and families. And whereas as the agency commemorates its 125th anniversary of service, the City of Peoria congratulates Family Corps on its continued efforts to promote safe environments for children and families. Now therefore I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby celebrate the 125th anniversary of Family Corps in Peoria, Illinois.
Mayor Ali and council members, we want to thank you on behalf of Family Corps, the Board of Directors, and all the employees for recognizing this wonderful anniversary that we have, but it started here in this building, which we really appreciate, not only the visionary leaders in the 1900s, but the visionary leaders that are still here today, this evening, and all of you seeing the needs in the community. So thank you for the partnership.
You're welcome. Thank you for all that you do for our community. Madam Clerk.
We are at the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the joint city council and town board meeting held November 18th, 2025 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We are at the township portion of the agenda. Item number 25-338, a request to approve the November 2025 actual expenditures and to approve the December 2025 anticipated expenditures for the town of the city of Peoria.
Trustee Gordon Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve item 25-338.
Seconded by Trustee Allen. Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We are now at the consent agenda items. Item number 25-339, a communication with the request to approve the 2026 Peoria City Council regular meeting schedule. Item number 25-340, a communication with the request to approve the release of the remaining city debt owed by the Expedition Gardens. 25-341, a communication with the request to approve a 2-year charter extension for the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. 25-342, a communication with the request for the following. A, approve a change order with J.C. Dillon Incorporated for the 2023 drainage repair contract in the amount of $1 million. And B, approve a 1-year extension of the 2023 drainage repair contract with J.C. Dillon Incorporated. Item number 25-343, a communication with the request to approve a contract with Government Consulting Solutions to serve as the city's lobbyist in the state of Illinois in the amount of $7,500 per month, and to authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Item number 25-344, a communication with the request to authorize the city manager to execute the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Peoria and Mechanical Systems Maintenance, Local 353, from December 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2029. Item number 25-345, a communication with the request to approve program manager services through December 31st, 2028 for the following. A, an agreement with Hanson Professional Services in the amount not to exceed $1,250,000 for transportation program manager engineering services. B, an agreement with Millennia Professional Services of Illinois in the amount not to exceed $2,625,000 for construction program manager engineering services. C, an agreement with Mead and Hunt in amount not to exceed $2,750,000 for sewer and combined sewer program manager engineering services. D, an agreement with Foth Infrastructure and Environmental LLC in the amount not to exceed $1,250,000 for solid waste program manager engineering services. And E, an agreement with HR Green Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $2 million for the stormwater program manager engineering services. Item number 25-346, a communication with a request for the following. A, adopt an ordinance approving a business district plan for the city of Peoria, Glen Hollow Business District. B, adopt an ordinance designating the Glen Hollow Business Development District. And C, adopt an ordinance imposing a retailer's occupation tax and a service occupation tax in the Glen Hollow Business Development District. Item number 25-347, appointment by Mayor Ali to the Sister City Commission with a request to concur. Jarrell Glass, Angela Weck, Abigail Appleton, Timothy Doyle is a reappointment. And that concludes the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Allen?
No, it's all good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to pull agenda item 25-341, please.
Can you repeat that again?
Agenda item 25-341.
341, okay. Councilman Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 25-340 and 25-343.
Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 25-346, please.
346?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. 25-344.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the other items? Moved by Councilmember Euler, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Madam Clerk, here we go.
25-340, a communication with a request to approve the release of remaining city debt owed by Expedition Gardens Incorporated.
Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, welcome back. I hope you're doing very, very well.
Thank you.
You don't look any better, but hopefully you feel better. Sorry, sir. It's cold outside. Okay, for the sake of accountability, I just can't, I know it doesn't mean anything, but I mean, this organization, this corporation owes the city of Peoria over $450,000. $225,000 is the what they owe us, I believe, and $225,000 is penalty or interest on what they owe us, something like that. But anyway, I know it doesn't mean anything, but I can't vote for this and just sweep it under the carpet, so I'm a no for this. I don't know if we need any motion or anything like that, but I don't know what you can say, Mr. Manager, about this, but.
Councilman
Thank you,
Hayes?
Madam Mayor. Councilman, as you know, the city had the opportunity to acquire this property through a foreclosure process. As part of that foreclosure process, the Exposition Garden Authority met with the city and the bank and asked the bank and the city to forgive the additional debt. The bank had a $201,000, that's Morgan Community Bank, a $201,000 deficiency judgment out of the foreclosure, and as the council is aware, we perfected our stormwater utility liens. At the time, it was in the amount of about $457,000, but additional stormwater liens accrued after that while the foreclosure was pending. So the total amount of debt is, as you expressed, $400,000, over $480,000. The forgiveness of that level of debt usually you know, we would pursue debts like that. But the bank and the city, when we met with Exposition Gardens, were faced with the Exposition Gardens threat that they would appeal the foreclosure. So the bank issued a satisfaction immediately of the outstanding amount of that deficiency judgment. So they released it. And I indicated, because of the timing of city council meetings, that I would just ask the council to forgive that debt. I did share with council that I think that debt's likely uncollectible. The Exposition Gardens Authority has no operations. They don't have a place because we're now in possession of the property. And so I shared with the council that perhaps we would be writing this debt off at some point in time in the future, and that I would ask the council to take the same step the bank did and recognize the insolvency of the entity and write off the balance of the stormwater debt. Thank you, council.
And that sharing was in a closed session
Yes.
meeting.
So, Mr. Hayes, thank you for the explanation, but I'm not an attorney, but am I incorrect in my thinking that we need to protect this city from people that owe us money and maybe want an opportunity to open another business or serve on some other boards, that if we forgive the debt, they would have a clean slate and be able to do whatever they want? Am I correct in saying that?
I think that the council has the discretion to forgive debt or not, and I try to stay away from articulating an answer to a should question. It is a difficult decision for the council to make whether to forgive debt or not. I do think that at some point in the future, I'll be faced with the prospect of advising council this debt's uncollectible, but, and taking care of this now would clean things up, but that's within the discretion of council.
I move not to forget the debt until you have to take those legal steps. Made the motion.
You made a motion?
Yeah. Move not to forgive until Mr. Hayes has to take some more legal maneuvering.
So you're moving to deny this motion?
Correct.
This, okay.
Not to forgive.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Carmona. Discussion. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. From a practical and fiduciary standpoint, the debt is uncollectible, and so while I understand the idea that you're protecting the taxpayer by leaving it in place, you're actually costing the taxpayer money, because now the legal department will have to continue to pursue this action, not just in staff time, but in financial, legal fees and court cost, to then at some point come back again and ask us to write it off. So financially, it makes no sense whatsoever to maintain the debt on the books. From a pragmatic standpoint, this was an organization that was created for the benefit of the public. And to me, it's really a slap in the face that we took the land and now we're going to tell a body that was created for the public benefit, that we're going to hold this on top of your head as well. It makes no sense to me whatsoever to deny taking this debt off, and so I'll be voting against the motion.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Corporation Counsel, what happens if we do not, what happens to this entity if we do not forgive the debt?
The stated purpose from the representatives was that they wanted to maintain and have the charter for the Heart of Illinois Fair, even though they have no practical plan to hold that fair. But they expressed that there was some concern that that charter would be in jeopardy if they had outstanding debts.
Thank you. So if they came to us with a plan to reinstate the Heart of Illinois Fair, and they still had this debt hanging over their heads, at that point in time, this council could forgive that debt. Is that correct?
The council would have discretion to forgive the debt in the future, yes.
Okay, so I don't know what the rush is. it seems to me that sometimes we get into things like this and there are ramifications of it that we're not familiar with. In the executive session, I spoke against this, and I'm still against it. I think it is likely to make zero difference. But there's this outside chance that something weird might happen, and I don't want to be I don't want to have the city exposed to that. If they want to come back and they say, we've got a plan to redo the Heart of Illinois Fair, we can act at that point, and that would be fine. At this point, if we do nothing, nothing changes. So I will be supporting the motion.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
you're welcome. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Corporation Counsel Hayes, can you speak to the original agreement that was approached to Expo Gardens that ultimately they didn't act on, but wasn't the debt being leveraged in that agreement originally?
It's, in June, we had a letter of intent executed with Exposition Gardens. The basic tenets of that, or elements of that agreement, was that the Exposition Gardens would sell the property to the city for the city satisfying the Morton Community Bank mortgage. And the city had negotiated a discounted amount for that. And then the city would forgive the outstanding stormwater utility debt, which is the debt that we are, that the request is to forgive that debt. So that deal that was struck in June was never perfected because since June, to my understanding, the Exposition Gardens Board has not met and never took action on the documents that would have allowed us to proceed with that transaction. So the bank went through with the formal foreclosure, and we then, as you know, came back to the council to obtain approval for a mechanism to allow the city manager to bid at the sheriff's sale. So that's how we ultimately acquired the property. The cost of that was about $75,000 more than what the city had originally agreed with through the letter of intent and the bank to acquire the property for.
Thank you for that explanation. So originally, when we made our initial proposal, we were already prepared to void the debt. And so I think now to continue holding this debt over Expo Gardens or whoever still represents Expo Gardens, I think at this point really doesn't make a lot of sense. The old adage, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. I mean, unfortunately, Expo Gardens, which, as Councilman Euler said, was a quality of life opportunity for our community, but the last several years have gone on tough financial times. And if they are able to resurrect the fair in some capacity, the chances of them doing it in the city of Peoria are honestly slim to none, considering the acreages they would need to execute a fair. So I think it's best at this point, and I know there's a lot of feelings about the particular property at Expo Gardens and them losing it and us taking it over and now looking to convert it into single-family housing, but I think it's best for us to shut this chapter. There's a lot of emotion involved in this, and I understand the business case in this and possibly creating a precedence. And I know that the stormwater utility fee is always a point of contention, especially in the Allen household when we get that bill every 4 months. But I think, though, that we need to close the chapter on this book so that way both parties can move on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For me, this is just a measure of accountability. If any of us had debt like this, nobody would let us write it off. I do disagree with what Councilman Euler said. I understand his reasoning behind it, but we didn't take this land from anybody. We were forced to acquire it because of what could happen if we let it fall into the fate of, the free market. So we've done a lot already, and I agree with this whole issue. but the city is being treated as a mechanism for bailout. And because I don't want this to continue, I think that we do need a measure of accountability, which is why I am supporting the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Vespa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council Hayes, did we ever represent to Exposition Gardens that we would be forgiving this debt in exchange for them not appealing our purchase?
I was very cautious in that moment and told Exposition Gardens' lawyer that I would merely present the opportunity to council to write it off. We did not make a binding agreement because I didn't have authority to bind the council to that outcome. So what I told Attorney Dans was I would present the motion, which is what I've done. And I've avoided trying to persuade towards an outcome other than to recognize that I did represent that we would present that opportunity to council. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation. So, I mean, our hands aren't tied here. We originally had an agreement to waive the debt. They did not hold up their end of the agreement. Unfortunately, we had to spend more money to acquire the land than originally thought. So, there are a lot of hard feelings around this horseshoe, I think for good reason. But on the other hand, this is a nonprofit that has a lot of goodwill throughout the community and has built up a lot of goodwill throughout the community throughout the decades. And I do not believe that they have the money to pay this debt. I believe they are a turnip. Holding on to this debt, it's uncollectible. But I mean, I understand what Councilman Euler was saying. We shouldn't spend any time trying to collect it, not even a postcard, I think. But I mean, we don't have to. I mean, we can just keep it on the books. We don't have to take them to court and try to squeeze blood out of a turnip here. So, I mean, I'm not sure that they've been good faith actors. But on the other hand, I don't want to squeeze or impede this organization from doing good, maybe setting up a fair somewhere else, even if it wouldn't be in the city of Peoria. Ultimately, I don't see the impetus for us to waive the debt. I don't see how it's in our best interest. So I think I will support Councilman Sears' motion. Thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just like to clarify Councilman Carmona's comment that we were forced to take. We were not forced to take. We exercised a right and voted to acquire. Thank you.
You're welcome. The motion is to deny release of the remaining city debt owed by Exposition Gardens. Please cast your ballots. Did I count wrong? Motion fails 6-5. Voting no, Jackson, Riggenbach, Euler, Gordon Young, Vespa, no, I'm sorry, not Vespa, Allen and Ali.
Madam Mayor? Thank you, Your Honor.
Council Hayes,
Part of the problem with having a motion in the negative,
pardon me?
part of the problem with a motion in the negative is we just didn't do anything just there. So now, I would ask the council whether they want to take action on the request to approve the release, because
Right.
we'd need a positive outcome for that. So I apologize for that little
Absolutely.
parliamentary move, but we need either action or no action on the
Yes.
actual request. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, you're welcome. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Euler, seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 5 no votes. Valpula, Kelly, Seer, Carmona, and Vespa. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-341, a communication with a request to approve a 2-year charter extension for the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity.
Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I pulled this particular item due to my employment with Peoria County government as the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. I serve as council liaison to the commission, and I have for several years, but because of the intergovernmental agreement between the two bodies, I will be recusing myself from this vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Understood. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I view this as an extension of something that we don't have much information on. I'm willing to go ahead and vote for the extension. But I would, you know, we've gotten a couple shiny reports, but nothing really has happened. This is, what, 5 years old at this point, am I right? And we've had 2 reports. Both of them said that we had a racist government here, which I took issue with. I'll do this, but I would like to see what this giant commission has accomplished.
There's an annual report every year, Councilman.
Well, I am in possession of those. I don't see much that's happened except a lot of nice, yeah, I'm sorry. They haven't been very satisfactory to me. So I will move to approve.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Valpula. Continued discussion, Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel a little similar to Mr. Kelly, but more importantly for me, I want a question for Mr. Manager. Do we have any financial commitment to this that's tied to this extension?
We've had the financial commitment of helping to prepare the report, supporting the efforts of some of the training of the commissioners, working with the county on that. We've tended to kind of share those expenses over the years. It hasn't been a significant dollar amount that we've had. It's been probably under $10,000 each year.
So we don't have a line item for this commitment as part of the general fund?
Yep.
Unfortunately for me, there's a motion on the floor already, but I'd love to defer this item until they give us, I would want to see a presentation of what they want to accomplish the next 2 years, if possible. Just
We've
work.
had them here.
I'm sorry?
You know, we've had them here not long ago.
I understand, but it'd be nice to, like you said, there's an annual report, and we should see them at least once a year. I'd love to see them before we do this. That's all I'm saying. But again, there's a motion on the floor, so, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. Councilmember Gordon Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question. I'm not sure who can answer the question, but because I've had the pleasure of attending these meetings in the past and just learning some of the processes and the relevance of it. And also, I do recall the meetings and the presentation. I think it's going to be important that council is very, very specific on what you're asking for, because there has been a presentation, and I found to be very relevant. So even if you go back to do something different, how do we know that it's going to be what you expect? And also, the second part of that is, have any of you attended any of these meetings to see what they are about? Because I think firsthand, that'll really give you a great idea of the relevance of it. Something to consider if you haven't. So I don't know, so there was a question in there. You know, are they open? I know they are, but I'm just being, making that They are? Okay, so I'm getting some nods. So perhaps you guys can try to attend, so that way you get an idea of what is happening behind the scenes beyond the really nice paper presentation, which is great, but then also they have come and presented as well. Just a reminder, this is happening. We got to be specific, otherwise you're going to constantly, you know, I mean, do it over and over and over, and I thought you did a great job to begin with. We got to make sure we know what we're doing. Where are you headed at? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Now, we have a motion on the floor to approve the 2-year extension of the City-County Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 1 abstention, Allen, and 1 nay, Carmona. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25343, a communication with a request to approve a contract with Government Consulting Solutions to serve as the city's lobbyist in the state of Illinois in the amount of $7,500 per month, and to authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. Councilman Seer?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, I'm not against it. I'm just trying to understand a bit more. Under overview, the communication we get there, 343, talks about they will endorse different issues for us, and they will okay, we'll work, it says right here, we'll work closely with the mayor and the member of the city council. Well, personally, I've been here 8 years to see, nobody ever called me, or I've never had any conversation with any of our lobbyists. So, and I'm not against that, but I'm just trying to understand, we have 4 state representatives in our area, and to me, their job is to represent us. So explain to me, why do we need to invest another, what is that, $80,000, $90,000 for lobbyists when we have 4 representatives in this area?
Well, I think if you were to talk to our legislative delegation, they'd tell you that it's very important that we have representation in Springfield. With the thousands of bills that are brought forward every session, it's not often that it's not always the case that our legislators are able to stay on top of everything that's coming that could affect us both positively and negatively, and that having representation in Springfield is very important for us, not only in advocating for specific Peoria positions on legislation or appropriations, but also for being defensive and making sure that we're addressing any bills that may be negative towards the city of Peoria. So those are the reasons why we do that. We can certainly, this is a new firm that has more representation than we've had in the past. We really had 2 firms that were representing us in the last couple of years. So this will provide us more opportunity for them to engage, I think, with the council and talk about that as we go forward with this new set of lobbyists. And I do think that this is money well spent as we look at what we're trying to do to not only protect the city's interest, but to advocate for any kind of funding we can get from the state on our behalf as well.
So how many lobbyists have we had working for us the last 8 years?
Oh, over the last 8 years, we had 1 lobbyist that was working for us up until Mayor Ali was sworn in, and then we had 2 lobbyists that were working for us in this last session. This firm, GCS, has 4 lobbyists. The mayor and I were on a call with them today, and the 4 of their lobbyists were on the call with us. So as we kind of walk through the legislative program, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So, you know, I think that you know, Peoria County's had a number. They've had 3 lobbyists over the years that that have represented Peoria County. It is not uncommon for municipalities of our size to have representation in Springfield.
And again, this money comes from general fund?
That's correct.
Move to approve, Madam Mayor.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Euler. I would I also want to thank Councilman Riggenbach for participating in that interview process. And it wasn't just he and I and the city manager. We had input from our representatives to Councilman Seer. They weighed in, and this firm really comes highly recommended, and I'm very impressed with what, my expectation is what we're going to get out of our new lobbyists. Councilmember Riggenbach, did you want to comment at all?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would say the city manager did a really nice job of summarizing the importance of this. And as you look at our state representative delegation right now, Leader Booth is the only one that is solely in the city of Peoria. Senator Kaler's district stretches all the way to Bloomington now. So while he's a born and bred Peoria boy, well, not born perhaps, but he's definitely a Peoria boy at heart, he does have multiple constituencies that are pulling him in different directions. So I think this really helps us stay alert and have people looking out for our interests regardless of what's going on. And as the mayor, you stated, they came in full force and were very impressive. So I'll be looking forward to having everybody meet them at our January workshop. So I'm definitely supporting this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I definitely see the need for a lobbyist, but I want to echo Councilman Seer's points that if this were the same company on the agenda, I would definitely be voting no. I think we got a big zero for them during their time of service, and I would question if they even knew where the city of Peoria was, because our lobbyist prior to them was here on a regular basis and interacted with the council, and I didn't see one single communication from the last firm during the last term. So I want to make sure that that expectation gets set up front. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more comments. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-344, a communication with a request to authorize the city manager to execute the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Peoria and Mechanical Systems Maintenance, Local 353, from December 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2029.
Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Manager, can you outline the changes in residency from the last contract to this one?
Let me see if I can get our HR director, our assistant city manager, and possibly outline those changes.
I know the numbers, not the residency, so I'll wait for Ed. Because I didn't think we made any major changes, so. I think it's just 25, isn't it?
So I wasn't in this negotiation, but I'm familiar with it in general. The residency requirement went from 20 miles to 25 miles on this contract.
Thank you. Just want to clarify the fact that I'll be voting no on this item. I think that the employees who collect a paycheck from us should also be living, contributing members of our community and paying into our financial system that pays their paychecks. And so I do not believe in allowing residency to go outside the city. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there a motion to approve this item? Moved by Councilmember Jackson, seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Any other discussion? Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that Councilman Euler brings up a very good point. It's really frustrating when we do pay employees that don't live in our area, but they take advantage of certain services that we have and stuff like that here, if anything happens to them here. And I just do think it is, I think it's important for somebody to live here if they're going to be receiving a paycheck from the city. So I will not be supporting this motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 2 nays, Euler and Carmona. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-346, a communication with a request for the following. A, adopt an ordinance approving a business district plan for the City of Peoria Glen Hollow Business District. B, adopt an ordinance designating the Glen Hollow Business Development District. And C, adopt an ordinance imposing a retailer's occupation tax and a service occupation tax in the Glen Hollow Business Development District.
Thank you. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This will not be a civic speech on that pesky Constitution that I love so much. I do have a serious question about the eligibility study and the verification that staff, how it sifts through that. So my main concern is the eligibility study claims that every plot is blighted. Now, if anybody in the crowd or listening at home wants to Google a blighted house, blighted shopping center, you will see something completely different from what Glen Hollow is. I think objectively, because I drove there through the whole parking lot, walked around all the sidewalks, saw some deterioration in some of the curbs, but by and large, this eligibility study, in my opinion, is a distortion of the truth. I think it's really important that we take studies like this seriously, otherwise, why have them at all? So, Assistant City Manager, sorry, do we actually go out and drive around and look at the claims from these studies?
So, first of all, I would say that we bring in a person, a consultant that has familiarity with our state law, understanding what the parameters are for us to do our evaluation. I will tell you what you see as blight to you may not be deterioration to your eyes, but as it relates to the threshold for what is considered a deteriorable property would be the threshold for which it's the beginning of deterioration. So even though you look at a parking lot and because they're not big giant potholes that your car is being damaged, the fact that if you go to that particular area, the only parcel that has had any modifications or anything done into the parking lot has been target property only. Once you get beyond that, everything else has not had any type of maintenance done to it in quite some time. If you go to the Best Buy location, you do see some deterioration in that. So no, it's not to the point of where we're too disprepared to have to, I would say, a tear down of a building, but it is at a threshold that would qualify so that we can, be able to mitigate some of those issues earlier so that we can have that area continue to thrive. So the money that is being utilized for this would go back into not just the infrastructure of the building, but the infrastructure of the area. So lighting, any type of road that the city might even own would be able to utilize these funds to be able to ensure that the area is maintained appropriately so that we don't get to a point of deterioration of where we have to look at demolition of property.
Thank you for that clarification. A big part of this too is the study claims that this money is obviously going to be used to try to fill some of those parcels in. My concern is like a contradiction because when Best Buy and Party City and that shopping center was full, why then didn't the developer maintain and take care of the property as he's supposed to? I mean, I think that's a very valid question to ask because the citizens, the city, taxpayers don't own this property, but they are being asked to, probably mostly unknowingly, they're gonna go in there and get an extra 1% on the bill that they pay in order for this developer to do things that they're already supposed to be doing. So I have a big issue with that, which you all already know. Now, this was on the consent agenda for a reason. I think it has plenty of support around the horseshoe. I know that I'm one of the ones that it's very against this. If this is the will of the council, I believe that we can do better by the citizens of our city. I think that we need some sort of policy, some due diligence to identify properties that are actually in need by looking at vacancies, what I would just say actual blight, new investments, something that requires accountability and safeguards our citizens from bailouts and routine expenses that are supposed to be now paid by them. Also a policy that treats local entrepreneurs and national chains fairly, so we're not just benefiting big box stores. I think we've already set a bad precedent with this conversation and this potential business development district, because already later on we're going to be voting on a developer who has another shopping center that I would say is one of the healthiest in town, asking to increase their 0.75% to a full 1% and extend the life of the special service area. I think that's kind of a sign that people will be knocking on the doors of City Hall, every single developer, to make sure that they also get their 1% from citizens, which turns into a city that is built on a bunch of crazy taxes, which nobody likes. Because I'm very concerned about transparency and making sure that we pick the right properties to actually have the authority to tax people more with our permission, I'd like to make a motion to defer this item until we can come up with a policy, an objective policy, to establish clear standards and criteria for BDD and SSA approvals.
We've got, thank you, Councilman Carmona. Councilmember Allen?
My comments were to the original motion, so I'll let us vote on this and we'll come back.
Did you just move? Okay, second, you want a second? Okay. Continued discussion, Councilmember Kelly?
Madam Mayor, I had comments on the original motion, not on the deferral. I'll be voting for the deferral, but I'll save my comments until this comes up again.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not hear the deferral. Who made the deferral? You made the deferral. Okay. You seconded the deferral? Yes. Okay, I understand. Okay, we're gonna vote on the deferral. Okay, related to the deferral, thank you. Councilmember Orler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Keeping my comments to the deferral, I would just say that delaying again, we continue to facilitate the ability to develop this plaza, as there are people looking at this and other plazas in the area for new investment purposes, and I hear on a daily basis the lack of retail in our community, and continuing to push this out and not do the things to allow us to compete with other communities doesn't put us in a seat that allows us to continue to grow our economy, so I will be opposing a deferral.
Councilman Briggenbach, did you have a comment? Okay. You're welcome. Councilmember Allen, did you have a comment on the deferral?
Only that I will be I will be opposing the deferral. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And just a point of clarity, if we do not pass this today, we will have to start over again. So this would have to go through a new process, as we would have timed out this current ability to pass this business development district.
Okay. The vote is on the deferral. The motion was made by Councilmember Carmona. It was seconded by Councilmember Seer. Please cast your ballots. The motion fails with No votes by Velpula, Jackson, Riggenbach, Euler, Gordon Young, Vespa, Allen, and Ali. Can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Any continued discussion?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, we'll need 3 separate votes for each item.
Okay, we're on item A, moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. I did ask for a discussion. I didn't see your light. Did you have your light on? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have good friends in the ownership of this shopping center. Nevertheless, we seem to be on a trend that says to me, this is going to keep going and going and going. If we approve this, it's another signal to shopping center owners to let their properties deteriorate. That way, they can get the taxpayers to take care of their properties. This incentive, you know, we all operate on incentives, and this incentive will be met by other shopping center operators. I wonder today how many shopping centers qualify for this, or whether we could get a consultant to say that they qualify. I'll bet there are all kinds of them in the city. I don't believe that our taxpayers should be responsible for the maintenance of shopping centers. I'm sorry. I'm as pro-business as anybody, but that doesn't mean emptying the, or dinging the taxpayer because I like this outfit. If we like this outfit that much, let's vote to take the money out of our general fund and fix their potholes and whatever. I don't think we'd go for that. But we go for dinging the taxpayer for this. And if we approve this, we're going to approve the next one, and the next one, and the next one. We have coming up a really well taken care of shopping area that's using this system, and they want to renew it. I mean, forever? I think we're going down a trail here that we should not be going down. We are not representing our taxpayers. Our business and corporate interests do not vote for us. Our citizens vote for us, many of whom are business owners, etc. We're getting ourselves into a place that we're going to find difficult to get out of. So even though, as I say, I have friends at this shopping center, I can't agree to this. We need to develop different incentives than taxpayers paying for this stuff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was very apprehensive on BDAs and SSAs for retail development when this came up a number of years ago. And I made many of the same arguments that I'm hearing tonight, that while it's opening the floodgates, everybody's going to be doing it. Well, you know what? I think this is the third one in the 15 years that I've been around this horseshoe that has actually come forward. This isn't something that we are instructing them to do because their property faces X, Y, and Z. This is something that the business owner, the property owner, the people who are taking care of the business on a day-to-day basis know what the business needs. The reason, I could argue the reason Westlake is one of the finest shopping centers in Peoria is because they've availed themselves of this very tool. And that helps them stay a step ahead of the competition. And we all know, I had somebody in the break room of my office today ask me about retail in Peoria. We all know how struggling the retail environment is across the country, and we are just a microcosm of that. So for us to tell the business owner that us 11 people around this horseshoe know what their business needs better than they do, I think that's kind of insulting. And I really think that if they have a product that they are comfortable raising their sales tax on themselves, we should say, go for it and make us all proud. And I think we've seen that already in the areas that have incorporated this. And I certainly am not a retail guru. I don't even like to shop half the time. But I'm not going to be the one who tell them this isn't the way to help your business. And the state has a very prescribed process, as the assistant city manager pointed out, on how these are put into place. The needs and the definitions, to use the word like blight means something. I could name a shopping center in my district that I would like to see improved, but you're not going to have any sales tax revenue from these vacant storefronts, so you have to be proactive. And I applaud the property owner here for having the foresight and a vision for what they want that center to become. So I will be supporting this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, I appreciate the conversation. Me and Councilman Carmona had a conversation earlier today, and we agree to disagree on this matter. Assistant City Manager Richardson, can you talk a little bit about when your economic development team is on the recruitment trail trying to field offers and interest from retailers? What are the conversations that they are telling you when it comes to selecting a site within the city of Peoria? Let's say if we are trying to fill the old Best Buy or trying to fill the old Dunham Sports, for example.
Sure. Well, one, I think that there was a request from this council for economic development to be a little bit more active in bringing business into Peoria from a retail standpoint. That was a conversation we had last budget cycle. And so I took that either to our staff and I said to them, we need to look at all our traditional financial tools and where do we need to really be focused on. And that's why you're seeing a number of these instruments coming in front of you at the end of this year. I would say that the Best Buy conversation of the relocation kind of started off this conversation of what do we do when we have a business that the property that is currently at is not meeting its needs, and the costs for that property to adjust to meet those needs are significant enough where the property owner cannot meet the needs because there's still that private entity that we are not involved in. That's the relationship between the business and the property owner. And what the disadvantage that I kept hearing from is that we don't have any tools to avail us to help support us in reducing those costs. So if I take Best Buy, that if you go into that building, unless you have a big box need of a store that size, you're gonna have to rezone that property so you can have multiple uses for it. That is a very significant cost, more than what that property currently is valued at. So then you have a building that's left empty until you have a property, a business entity that's willing to take on that cost. And so you start looking at locations throughout the city. The reason why this was a prime location and why we're very particular, I do not sit in front of you today, Council, without having done my due diligence in saying, What is it that this particular area need? And with Best Buy leaving, we have a very large parcel that is vacant. The property owners coming to us trying to think of ideas and solutions to how they can bring different types of business into that space. We worked and connected with them with other businesses that are interested in locating in Peoria, and the problem comes down to cost. Now, I don't want to talk about our community across the river, but I do want to remind people that it is just not the city of Peoria, the Peorians that live here, that pay sales tax. I would tell you this location is probably our highest traffic location of any of our areas that come to the city of Peoria outside of the city. So you have more people coming outside of the city to come to the Target, to Lowe's, or to even the bookstore, because one, that's the only bookstore of that magnitude in the area. And we tracked this, so we looked at the data, we looked at traffic counts, we also looked at sales receipts. We recognized that at this location, you know, outside of Target, which does groceries, you're not able to tax on groceries. So that is not something that is able to be taxable on the 1%. It's looking at general merchandise, sports goods, and so forth. This location was the perfect location that fit a BDD and the beginning of a deterioration of the site. So I would not recommend a BDD in every location because it wouldn't work. Unfortunately, in the district that you're in, Councilman Riggenbach, we know the parcels you're talking about. A BDD would never work because you have majority vacancy and you have a grocery store. So there's no income generated really from that. So we have to be very intentional and look at what the tools we have, be it TIF, which really doesn't work, because they are already vacant place. These buildings are not all vacant, and the way that TIF works, there's not enough increment to support it, because EAV is not that low. So I would say to that answer, is we look at everything, we have these conversations, and then we as staff go back and understand the tools that our state prevails us to use, and we know that there's a comfort level. Any type of agreement that happens between a property owner and the city and the BDD will come back to council like we do already with our redevelopment agreements with TIFs. Those same processes exist. You all receive those agreements before those agreements have been approved. So we do have a process in place that allows for you to vet the types of uses that we are looking to utilize these funds for. It is not just a pool of money that they get to come and dip in. They do have to have an agreement, and those agreements will continue to come in front of the council as they avail themselves.
Thank you so much for that detailed explanation, you know, and I think the latter part of talking about what guardrails will be in place to ensure that this isn't funds that are collected by the different developers. And I do also want to provide the caveat that there are multiple property owners within the Glen Hollow Shopping Center.
5.
So it isn't just one entity that owns the entire shopping center. It is multiple entities that own property there. But I think it's important, again, to discuss that you all have done your research. You all have decided that this is a good option. And for myself as a district representative for the shopping center, and I'm thinking about not just what tomorrow looks like, but I'm thinking about what does this area look like 25, 30 years from now. And I don't know about you all, but like I like to go in stores and try on pants. I don't like to order things online. And right now we have to be proactive to sustain our retail options within our city. And Assistant City Manager Richardson talked about our friends across the river. And a lot of times people come up to me and say, man, everything's going to East Peoria, everything's going to the Heights. Well, respectfully to them, they're using these same financial incentives to recruit retailers to their different municipalities. And that's just the space that we're in. When developers come to us, they're asking what incentives you can provide. If you say you can't provide anything, then they go somewhere else and they get that incentive, and then they'll be having the ribbon cutting ceremony, and our constituents will be asking us how come they got to go across the river to try on some pants. So I think that we have to be intentional and be proactive. I think we have to ensure, though, to Councilman Carmona's point, that we don't want an onslaught of these, but it sounds like based off of the criteria, not everyone is even eligible. So I appreciate staff's intentionality on this. I think, again, the research you all did, I know some of the data that was shared with me from Debbie Van Siegel when we did our Zoom informational was that 40% of the people that shop at Glen Hollow Shopping Center come from outside of the city of Peoria. And this isn't a blanket tax that everybody is paying in the city of Peoria. Only if you go to that shopping center, you will be paying into that selective tax. And so I do want to throw that caveat out there as well, too. This is not something that I take lightly as someone who's trying to balance my own household's finances, but I know, and talking to my constituents and talking to many others, the amenities that you all want to have living in an urban city like the city of Peoria. You want to have quality shopping options, and this is how we can sustain this. So thank you so much for the explanation, and I hope my colleagues can support me tonight on this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Vespa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, I think you know, Councilman Riggenbach raised a good point. You know, this is not something that we're requesting. This is something that the commercial landlords are requesting. And you know, in a perfect world, I'm not sure I wish that this existed, this law existed, but we didn't pass it. Springfield passed it. And this is the world we live in. I think East Peoria is 3 of these districts, and all the neighboring communities seem to have at least one. So, you know, in a perfect world, I would say, you know, commercial landlords, if you need 1% more, you know, in revenue to fix up landscaping, parking lots, infrastructure, then just raise the rent 1%. But for some reason, that, you know, they don't want to do that. And so it falls on us. It falls on us because our competition's doing this. I will say one of the benefits is that the money collected, as Assistant City Manager Richardson said, you know, we can assure that it does go into the improvements, into the parking lots, into the landscaping, you know, which you've seen at Westlake is fantastic. You know, Westlake is sparkling. So I mean, I think it's not our job to protect them from themselves. You know, these commercial landlords might lose business. Maybe they like having the receipts say that it's you know, us that are the bad guys with the 1% tax. Maybe that's what's appealing. I don't know, but I mean, if they want it and it keeps them here, we don't see any more commercial flight. And it's an optional tax. You know, you don't have to shop there. I think it's good that we let everybody know that we possibly can, that there is an extra 1%. If you do shop there, I'm going to begrudgingly support this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Assistant Manager Richardson, thank you very much for your comments. Helps me a lot. I just want to make sure I understand, and I heard Mr. Vespa just say something again, but I want to make sure I understand. So the collection and the distribution of the funds, who will be in charge of that, and who will be accountable for that?
So it is collected by the Department of Revenue, and then we would have a designated fund for those dollars. So we will have it in our, we'll call it the BBD fund, that will then sit in, those dollars will sit there. So as they come through the revenue, then they would disperse them back to the city.
So how will the money be distribution, or how will be the distribution after we get the money? What would be the qualifications?
So that's something that so the implementation of this tax will not occur until next year, later next year. So we will have time to come back with some type of plan that we would want to put together as it relates to what does that document look like that we currently do with our TIFs. So right now we have a very extensive a process for our TIFs, so we ask for additional information, project information, your sources and uses and so forth like that. So we do have that information so we can have an understanding of what the gap is that we're trying to help fulfill. So those types of activities would continue to work. We would just have to, myself working with the city manager and the Corporation Council will put together that document so that we can make sure that whatever it is, that council has eyes on as well.
Thank you very much for your explanation, Mr. Manager. I love Councilman Carmona's suggestions. Obviously, I see a big need for us to have some training or maybe a policy session. I will be supporting this motion, but I'd love to hear from you very soon how we can have some training for us or maybe a policy session before we have the next BDD. Would that be possible?
we can certainly look at putting something together and having a policy session on that. If that's council's direction, we can do that for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To everybody in the crowd, everybody listening at home, you've heard it. If you wanted to play in Peoria, you better pay. What will amount to tens of millions of dollars that goes into this fund is money that most people will not have a clue is being taken from them. Because even though we have a good crowd in here today, the reality is that most people just won't know that this is happening to them. They'll just chalk it up to inflation, rising costs like every day. We're taxed in so many different ways that things like this have become institutionalized norms for government to do to its own citizens and to allow businesses to do to its own citizens. Those tens of millions of dollars and all the ones that have already been collected from other counties, I don't care if they do it. That's great, good for them. But it's still taxation without representation because you're not gonna get a dividend check back from this great development. Best case scenario, you get more places to spend your money. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Gordon Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to follow Councilmember Carmona's comments with the citizens of this community are smarter than we give them credit for. We want, and meaning all of us, want better. We want options. And the reality is, this is the way things are going now. And we're always getting, we always hear how everybody else is doing it and doing it better. When we get an opportunity that was presented to us to take advantage of, you know, I think we got to be careful that we don't insult the citizens of this community. And also, Assistant Manager Richardson, I want to thank you and your staff for all the hard work. I know you did your due diligence, and I appreciate that. And the work that you all do, because when you, like you said, when you see blighted, we see something different, right? But we also want to make sure that we're supporting the businesses here, making sure that, you know, when people go into these places, they're safe, they're structurally, you know, good. But also, like I said, we don't want somebody tripping in the parking lot. We don't want people to not want to go there. But at the end of the day, I think we got to be really, really careful when we're, and, you know, we're bordering on the line of insulting the citizens of this community. And also the staff that are doing the work, trusting the process. It's almost like we need to have a template for all the departments to do it the way we think it should be done when we're not the experts in those particular fields. So again, thank you for your work. And again, I just want to thank the citizens of this community for entrusting us, because they are much, much smarter than we give them credit for quite often. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councilmember Gordon Young, thank you for the theme of your remarks, that our people are rather bright. I'll get to that in a moment. I would like to remind the council that retail is the end of the line as far as economics is concerned. You start with wealth creation over here, you pay wages, et cetera, and so that people can go out and buy something. It doesn't do a whole lot of good to reinforce the end of the line when the beginning is the part that really needs help, and it takes care of everything else. And we're not, in my opinion, we're not doing that because we, as a government body, are very, very dependent, in my opinion, overly dependent upon sales taxes. Sales taxes are punishment to people for buying in our city. The thing is, every city does it, so it doesn't look like that. Okay? But why would we penalize people? You know, you want to help retail? Cut sales tax. Oh, no, we can't do that. Okay? That would help retail, and that would help our people. I'd close by coming back to, I also want to say to, to our Assistant City Manager, I appreciate very much the work that you do, and I know that you work very hard at this, and I appreciate it, and I think our citizens should appreciate it. You are working with the conventional tools that everyone else works with. These tools don't work all that well here. They don't work all that well anywhere. And what they tend to do is, I'm not saying anywhere, I'm sorry, in most places, these tools don't work. But we do them because they're conventional. And we are afraid to step out and try something new. But I think the work you do within the constraints we have is very, very good. Finally, I'll end by saying, and going back to what Councilwoman Gordon Young had to say, I think our people are bright. I would like all the council members to ask themselves, if this question came to your constituents, how would they vote? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I ask my constituents questions like that on a daily basis, and I can show you the text messages, emails, voicemails on why we don't have retail and everybody else does. I guess also one of the things that comes with nearly a decade of sitting in this chair, other than the fact that I have a lot less hair than I did when I started, is the fact that I've seen this iteration go around a few times. And I know for a fact that Dillard's is not here because we weren't willing to do this some years ago. Von Mauer isn't here because we weren't willing to do this. Bergner's is gone because we weren't willing to do this. We have to be willing to compete. That's the reality of the situation, and I don't want to belabor the point because I made it the last time we spoke about this topic, but we can sit here and say we don't want to do the things that it takes to get the retail and to give our citizens the amenities that they ask for, but what's the alternative? Are you okay just sitting by and watching our constituents complain about the fact that we don't have these things and somebody else does? Somebody else is getting the tax revenue off of those things that we could be getting. Somebody else is getting the property tax revenue off the buildings that are occupied when we're talking about how we're going to satisfy the vacant strip malls. All of these things are part of a bigger ecosystem that we get elected to make decisions on and protect. And so philosophy's great, but at the end of the day, I got elected to make decisions, and I'm here to do that. So I will be supporting going forward with this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, no one's ever called me to demand that we have more places to shop. When I get calls, it's always about safety. I'm not disputing what you're saying because I know that some people do want more places to shop here in Peoria. Assistant Manager Richardson, if I came across as impolite, I'd like to apologize to you. As far as the citizens of Peoria, I'm the one trying to keep the money in your pocket. I think you are intelligent. I am not here to help subsidize capitalists who aren't reading trends. I am here to protect the Constitution and to do right by every citizen in Peoria, which is why I feel so strongly about this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We are voting on item A, adopt an ordinance approving a business district plan for the city of Peoria Glen Hollow Business District. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 2 nays, Carmona and Kelly. Councilmember Allen,
Move to approve item B, Madam Mayor.
seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 2 nays, Carmona and Kelly. Councilmember Allen,
I move to approve item C, Madam Mayor.
Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots.
Do we need a second?
Pardon me. Councilmember Gordon Young?
I was just seconding his motion,
Oh,
just letting you know.
okay. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 2 nays, Carmona and Kelly. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business items. Item number 25-348, a communication with a request for the following. A, approve an agreement with the Hanks Foundation for a donation to construct the D. Hanks Amphitheater in the amount of $11 million. And item B, receive and file a presentation from the Hanks Foundation. We'll need 2 separate motions, and there's handouts for the agreements of the exhibits A and B.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn the floor over to our Corporation Counsel, but I just wanted to have a minute to just give you a couple of opening remarks. We do have representatives of that are here in the audience with us, of the design team, of the Park District, of the Hanks Foundation, representatives that former mayor of Washington, who is representing Jim Hanks. We have elected officials of the Park Board, as well as the staff of the Park District. We have Core Construction. We have Epstein Architects. We have Terra Engineering, and they're going to give a presentation after we walk through the donation agreement. And so I'm going to turn it over to our Corporation Counsel to talk about the donation agreement, walk through what's in that, and then we'll get to the presentation.
Okay. Council Hayes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The agreement contemplates the design and construction of the amphitheater at Riverfront Park. As the council may know, Riverfront Park was acquired by the city through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and National Park Service through a project agreement, and so there's some complexity to this agreement related to that. Staff has done some preliminary discussions with those entities, and we're confident we'll be able to successfully get approval, but that approval is a necessary part and is incorporated in this agreement. So first, we have to get the design approved by the city, because we're going to be retaining directly the design professionals and the construction entities. Then that design has to be preliminarily approved by the Hanks Foundation, because they're providing the funding for the project. Once that preliminary design has been approved by both the city and the Hanks Foundation, we'll be submitting it to the National Park Service and the IDNR for approval. There might be some adjustments to the plans through that process from the various entities that have a hand in it. But central to the agreement that the city struck is we'll be directly retaining and contracting with those design professionals and construction entities, because at the end of the entire project, this amenity will be owned by the city of Peoria. And so we want to make certain that we have direct contracts with those entities. One element of this agreement, which is unique, we don't see this often, but the Hanks Foundation has determined already that they want to select the design professionals as well as the construction entities. And we've agreed in this agreement to use our home rule powers to do that. We know the firms that they've identified, and we're confident in their ability to do a project like this, or we wouldn't be suggesting to council that we agree to this. In the future, Hanks might decide to change an entity, and any kind of change of entity would be subject to city council approval as well. And so we do want the donor to have the flexibility to select the design professionals that they want to design the project and the construction professionals that they'd like to contract. But they are competent professionals, and if there's a switch, we'll make sure that that future firm would be selected. I don't have any reason to believe that would be there, but that's a component of this agreement, and we want to make sure the council's aware of that. The donor would fund all the design and construction, and so we've segmented out the different steps. The design step We'll be directly contracting with the selected design entities, subject to funding from the Hanks Foundation for the cost of those designs. And then once those designs get through that approval process that I mentioned earlier, we'll proceed with the construction. There'll be quite a bit more transaction in the construction activity because of all the different draws and everything. And so there's an elaborate element of this related to that draw mechanism. The Hanks Foundation wants to make certain that they are aware of all these expenditures. And so we'll be going through a process with them to make sure we're approving the design expenditures and the construction expenditures as we go forward. One of the exhibits for this agreement isn't there. It's just a note, because that very elaborate funding and distribution system, we want to retain the design professionals, and that will be doing that agreement, and that was always anticipated that that would be a document that's subject to change. Exhibit A and Exhibit B of this, A is supposed to be the legal description. I want to apologize to council. I didn't get the drawing of where this would land until this week. And so representing the legal description is a depiction of the proposed site, and we'll get back to a precise legal description once we have the engineers figure out what that description is. In addition, that legal description could change through the design phase as well as through the approval phase through the IDNR and the National Park Service. And so the whole project is going to have some flexibility perhaps in ultimately what that parcel identification is. Same with the design of the actual facility. You've got in front of you and in the exhibits that you'll see in the presentation a depiction of the preliminary design that still has a lot of functions to go through. The Hanks Foundation and the city will be collaborating back and forth to arrive at a final design. But once that's established, then we'll, as I mentioned, we'll be submitting that for approval to the Park Service and the DNR. I was happy to receive some input from a citizen about a couple of typographical errors in my document that I will be correcting. There's some misidentified sections by number in 3.1 in your document. It's 3.15, that should be 3.13, and that mistake carries out through a number of those sections, so we'll be correcting those errors, and I apologize for that. I dropped the word out of 4.1.1.1, so obviously the escrow funds will deal with both the design and construction of the foundation-funded facilities, so that'll be corrected. And then in section, what should be section 10.1.2 is identified as 11.1.2, and we want to identify that the city would designate an authorized representative from time to time. So I apologize for those typographical errors, and flexibility of this document also requires some flexibility from this body, and I appreciate it. But I'd be happy to answer any of your questions about the agreement, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly?
Item A.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Gordon Young. Discussion. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council Hayes, as I look through this agreement, I just had a quick question. If there's some sort of like unforeseen circumstances that affect the budget, I just wanted to know if there's like a way we can allow other donor funds, foundations, or grants that could come alongside this agreement, if that would be possible. And the only reason is because I have a couple architect friends that have expressed that obviously as things change, a lot of things get restricted with the budget. And so I'm just curious if this agreement would allow for something like that. Obviously, still keeping in mind that this is the Hanks Foundation, the majority, their naming rights and all that stuff. And we do appreciate this. I think all of us appreciate what they're doing for our city. But could you speak to that at all?
So obviously in any major project like this, particularly with the scope and the cost of this project, budgeting is part of the obligation of the professionals that are retained. That'll be part of that contracting that we do to make sure that the budget estimate is maintained. And so if there are augmentations required, that source of funding would have to be identified. The city is not obligated to provide additional funding beyond the contribution, other than for site remediation costs. So this site originally was a rail yard years and years ago before the city acquired it. And so we may bump into some environmental concerns. We'll be looking through brownfield funds if there's a remedy that needs to be had. We often are able to access grant funds for those types of purposes. But other than that, the city's obligations end at the sort of proposed boundary sites. And so that $11 million amount has to be able to satisfy all of those costs of design and construction. And I think anybody with a project like this is going to estimate some overages and things like that. So that's part of that responsible budgeting that'll be part of our contracting and oversight with those individuals. That said, like you said, maybe something comes up and we have to find another source. That's certainly something the city would undertake at that time, but we don't anticipate that today.
Thank you for that. I just want to make sure that if we can, leave the door open, because if there are options for, say, upgrades in scope, features, or quality to make this as awesome as it can be, I think we should allow for that.
Keep in mind that the whole Riverfront Park, we have a major grant from the state, promised money that hasn't come for the Riverfront Park, that we're hopeful that this is sort of an incentive for our state officials to pay attention. Through the benefit of the Hanks Foundation, we're tremendously lucky to have the ability to make this investment in our riverfront, and we're hopeful that that will help trigger the state into funding the Riverfront Park grant so that we can undertake that. And we certainly feel that part of the nice part of Terra being part of this design team is that they're our designer on the Riverfront Park as well. And so hopefully we'll be able to combine these elements and execute on a tremendous Riverfront Park project. That state part of that, though, is still in that state limbo. And to your point, we may need to look for other things to augment this, but right now we're not obligated to do so.
Okay. I appreciate it, Council Hayes, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Gordon Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Corporation Counsel Hayes, I don't know if you can answer this question. This is under section 7.3, ticket revenue share to donor. And it says the Hanks Foundation has stated that the $1 ticket revenue would be used for academic scholarships for regional students. Do you know how they plan to track that?
So it's my understanding that the Hanks Foundation is not engaged in a lot of that activity because, of course, they don't have this funding source. And so we don't have a lot more detail than that at this point in time to share, other than the Hanks Foundation has been clear about its intention to utilize that to benefit educational opportunities in the arts area.
Okay, do you know if that, like, that's going to be written in, though? And will there be like an accountability measure? Yes?
Yeah, so anytime we have events in the riverfront, there's tickets that are sold. So you can audit the number of tickets that were sold at an event and go back and you know, if that additional dollar has been added under the ticket, you can have, whether it's a promoter or whether it's a park district, you know, holding an event that you'll be able to track that, and we'll be able to work through that to make sure that those dollars were passed through appropriately.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great, but I'm also like, how many scholarships? How many, you know what I mean? Like, what's the dollar amount? You know, when we say regional, what does that mean? I just would like a little bit more clarification in terms of that piece. Other than I don't have any further questions. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
One final point, Councilwoman, we did include a non-discrimination clause just to be protective on that issue, and that's at 7.4 to guide the Hanks Foundation on their contributions. Their charitable contributions would be non-discriminatory. Their whole basis of existence is as a charitable foundation. So there's some oversight there as well from the federal tax authorities about their purposes that they've stated in those documents and in that regulatory scheme. And so we have confidence that the Hanks Foundation is going to follow through as they state, but there's also not only this agreement where we'll have some limited oversight, but also the federal government with regard to the foundation's tax status will be monitoring that. Thank you.
Thank you both for your explanation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And under item 7.2, I do just want to put this out there for the audience that the revenue sharing provision will not be limited to longstanding festivals such as the Fine Art Fair, Oktoberfest, Soul Fest, Iris Fest, Fiesta El Rio, and India Fest. So I wanted to state that. Then I appreciate them understanding that those are long existing programming that we're having that they won't be included in the revenue sharing. Is that correct, Corporation Counsel Hayes?
That's correct. We want to make certain that our traditional items wouldn't be affected by this revenue share, even if those events utilize the amphitheater. So, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have an item on the floor to approve an agreement with the Hanks Foundation for a donation to construct the D. Hanks Amphitheater in the amount of $11 million. And we have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this point, I'd like to ask Kevin Graham of Terra Engineering to come up, and he'll walk through a presentation of the possibilities that we're envisioning for the D Amphitheater.
Mayor Ali and City Council, just wanted to say thank you on behalf of Jim Hanks. Jim wanted this dream to build an amphitheater to honor his wife that passed away. He's a Washington guy, went to Eureka College, University of Illinois in Chicago, then on to USC for his doctorate. And he made drugs and sold them, but they were legal, Chief. He ran a pharmaceutical company, was very successful, and what a great gift that the city has just received, I believe. So the Hanks Foundation thanks you very much, and enjoy the presentation. And again, this is just a conceptual first look of what possibilities can happen on that riverfront. So pretty exciting times.
Thank you, Mayor Manier.
Thank you. Again, my name is Kevin Graham with Terra Engineering. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. On behalf of our entire team, and it was kind of mentioned, Terra Engineering with Epstein Global. Patrick is going to help me with the presentation. AirUp, and then our valued partner, Core Construction. Caleb is here tonight as well. They're really working with us as we go through this process to look at cost, to look at right-sizing this, so that as we're going through the design, we're providing you with accurate and reliable information. So when we were last before you on September 9th, I believe, we presented kind of what that general idea might be. Where might this happen in the riverfront? And how might that be, the AS Amphitheater be called the riverfront its new home? So tonight, we're excited to come for you and provide a little bit more insight as to, and a preview of what these possibilities, what the conceptual ideas may look like and go towards. So with that, we'll launch into it. And this is just a little bit about the whole mission statement of the Hanks. I don't expect you to read that. It's in your information. But the proposed site, as we've talked about, is along the riverfront between the Murray-Baker Bridge and the Riverplex as it sits. It's approximately about 5 to 6 acres of land, and kind of drawing that magical boundary on the far side, closer to the Gateway Center. It's kind of that flex part of that. But roughly that's kind of the area we're looking at. what I want to go through is kind of a little bit of the features. You know, the area currently has the Veterans Memorial, has the Gateway Building on the side, the playground that was taken out. There's a few little remnants of that, but has really, you know, this site, a big open green space, and I know there's been questions about, you know, how this land was acquired originally through the Land Water Conservation Fund. And yes, we have had conversations concurrently and actively through this process with the DNR and entities to talk about the use, the standards, the requirements to make sure this fits in with what we're envisioning. Over the past few years, number of years, City of Peoria, the Park District has hosted some very wonderful events on this site. Some festivals, cultural events, concert series, and really that's kind of what we're looking to continue with moving forward. But making that part of the fabric of the riverfront that is celebrated and takes it to another level. So how are we looking to do that, and what are we looking to do? In doing so, through this process, we looked at and wanted to learn from some of the other venues around the country in the Midwest that have some of the similar understandings and issues, concerns that we've looked at here. Places in North Carolina, Cedar Rapids, we went to looked at Nebraska, a number of different events, spaces, and said, right sizing this, looking at the amenities, looking at the operational aspects and challenges that they've faced, and said, how do we solve that here? And then we even looked at it and said, would that fit here? Are we right sized? Do we have the right kind of parcel? This is the Cedar Rapids one. It would fit in here. It actually operates very similar to what we're looking at here. Or in Aurora, we have a venue that we'd operate a little differently, but again, does it fit on this site? Absolutely. So I think we have confidence in the sizing of this space. We did prepare and you approved a master plan for the riverfront a few years ago. And within that master plan are a number of different features, but a key couple of them, items number 19 and 20 on there, were festival grounds and a band shell. And really looking at this specific area for heightened infrastructure improvements and bringing in a more of a structured venue for this site. This actually imposes this into the site. So what are we looking to do with this site? As you look at the area kind of between, and what it does is kind of positions the pavilion, and I would point to different things, but we're looking at different screens here, so I won't do that, and for the people at home. But we have a performance pavilion, the D Performance Pavilion, which is more closer to the river, facing back towards the skyline of the city and towards the bridge. We think this orientation is a little more, it's dramatic, you know, both for the performances. It sets the stage out where it's visible as kind of an iconic structure and on the lawn. It allows us to have other aspects to the services of this, both from how do they load in and out for operationally, as well where we can encourage some of the VIP and other accessory items, which would be just kind of pop up in close proximity to the riverplex, and how that becomes an attractant to attracting talent to come to this venue. We've looked at where should we have concessions and how do we bring people into the site, maintaining kind of how the Park District has operated it to date, of utilizing that coming underneath the gateway building. And so we have a maintained, secured entrance point to the site. A number of different amenities are on this, from VIP seating areas to how would we control stormwater. One of the things that we learned and witnessed at a couple of the different venues, and there was one in Lexington that I happened to be there for another event, was this idea of kind of breaking the space up so that, and you kind of see the wider walkway kind of running through an angle parallel to the stage. What that does is when we have those smaller community events, we now have a space they feel like they fit in, and it doesn't just become this wide open field. So it kind of helps us maintain and right size feel where we're at in the lawn, and I think that becomes important to those smaller cultural events that are happening that you host on a regular basis, or new ones perhaps that want to take part in the riverfront. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity for the lawn. What might this overall look like? This is just kind of a rendering of what it could look like on the riverfront. The bridge is so dramatic and dynamic. It's wonderful every time I turn the TV on, I see the bridge lit up, and we want to accent that. And I think some of the images that Patrick is going to walk through and describe the architecture. When we envisioned this riverfront, it was really playing off of Peoria's history and heritage, the cultural heritage of the city, the historic and the industrial heritage of the city. And bringing in that element into the design, I think, is really important. So with that, I'm going to let Patrick take over and kind of walk you through what some of our very early possibilities might be.
Madam Mayor and council members, thank you for your time. I'm Patrick Carrata. I'm the Architectural Design Director at Epstein. I'll walk you briefly through some of the ideas and concepts that went into the stage design in particular. And as Kevin alluded to, the Murray Baker Bridge was actually an important inspiration to the stage design. We were really drawn, obviously, by the historic importance of this particular engineering feat. But we also drew some inspiration as far as ideas like connectivity, which is something that a bridge brings between communities, which is very important. As you zoom closer to the bridge, we actually start to really be drawn to some of the engineering elements, like the angularity of the steel, the perforations, and obviously that's really brought to life by the lighting, as Kevin mentioned, especially in the evening. And as architects, we're really drawn by our context. We were very inquisitive about our context, but we also wanted our stage to complement what was around us. So you see some of the angularity and the elements that you could reference from the bridge being injected into our design. We're also in a floodplain, so anything that lands on the ground could be an issue as far as debris being caught when it does flood. So actually having two columns come down on a V shape serves a purpose as well. It limits the number of points that touch the ground, which was also important. And also the splaying of the column in the rear opens up that corner again for water debris, but also serves a purpose for access from our loading area. But we really wanted this stage to be part of the community, even when it wasn't being used for events like rock and roll concerts or orchestra, as we've shown in the previous image. So we thought that it would be important for this a stage to have an iconic form and something that was recognizable and could be used year-round, whether it's a yoga class as depicted in this image or somehow have some synergy with the Riverplex nearby. So we wanted to go a little beyond, let's say, 2 walls and a roof, which is typically what a stage is. And we thought about that connectivity that the bridge has, let's say, in theory. And we thought about, how can we make this a little bit more engaging for the community? So we looked into things like, punch cards and Morse code and even QR codes as sort of these fictional doorways into a world of information that you could access. So we thought, maybe the facade could be that kind of doorway to this additional information. So we introduced a pattern that could be readable and scannable by, certain types of devices. So if somebody were to approach it during the daytime when there's not a performance, they'd be able to almost go on the scavenger hunt, if you will, search for this code or QR code on the facade, and then be able to access, it could be a message from a performer, it could be a message from Jim Hanks and the Hanks Foundation, it could be a graduation that was filmed here. So we sort of developed a memory bank or an archive for all these shared memories of the community. And we feel like this will keep the stage engaging and give it a life of its own. We obviously had to size the stage based on some minimum requirements. It's kind of hard to see here, but the stage had to be a 40-foot by 60-foot minimum footprint. It had to have some clearance requirements for rigging and lighting. So we are addressing all these sort of technical requirements, and we have to make this function for a concert. And again, these are preliminary renderings. We look for feedback as we move this forward, but we just wanted to show you the exciting possibilities with the stage design. And then finally, I think this kind of summarizes the beginning of the presentation when we talked about context. We think that the stage design could complement the bridge really well with its angularity and also have this very iconic form. And something that is a lesson from, now 22 years of doing this is that if you can synthesize a shape into a couple of lines, you're typically on the right track for something iconic. And that's kind of what we were aiming for. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. Mr. Graham, Mr. Carrata, beautiful presentation. I'm impressed. I mean, it just looks amazing. I love the elements of the bridge incorporated into the design of the stage. I mean, it just looks like an art sculpture. And yeah, it's very beautiful. Questions? Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it's the councilman whose district will host this magnificent amphitheater. Let me say thank you, first of all, to Mayor Manier and the Hanks Foundation in general. I think I speak for all of us around this horseshoe in saying we're just overwhelmed by the generosity and the vision and how this ties in with the master plan. There's just so much synergy that we'll be forever grateful. And so make sure you give Mr. Hanks our deepest gratitude. And Kevin and Patrick, wow. As the mayor just said, this iconic, I think, is not an understatement in any way at all. So this is to be incorporating a structure like this in a floodplain with all the other concerns. And I got a message from one of my constituents, make sure that it isn't facing the North Valley, because they still have nightmares of a concert a few years ago. So this just hits all the points that many in the constituents of ours have been talking about. And again, we'll be excited to see this be fine-tuned, but the iconicness of this just really speaks to me. And job well done. Thank you very much.
Well said, Councilman Ringenbach. He'll never let us forget. This is in District 3. Part of our downtown. And thank you to the Hanks Foundation, Mr. Hanks, Mayor Manier, great to see you again. Emily, thank you all. We really appreciate it. Before we, maybe we'll get what I'm going to ask for. Councilman Kelly?
I guess I'm being a little contrary tonight. First of all, I think the work done so far is wonderful. Of course, we're all very, very grateful for this gift and selection of Peoria and the selection of the site in Peoria. I think it is wonderful. I remember I was on a team for a new building some years ago for a new church, and went around. People were asked what they wanted in the church. They were talking about capacity, and they were talking about this and that, and it came to me, and it's the same thing that I will say this evening. It should be beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful is also iconic. The design that we saw originally, that sloping arch, maybe there's something impractical about it, but it was a beautiful building. This, to me, is a little brutalist. And we are brutalist in architecture, the architectural term. I know that, you know, the bridge is something that inspires, and our industrial background is something that inspires. I get that, but this is a place to enter another world, it seems to me, and something beautiful would serve. If this is built this way, I'm sure it'll be great, and it certainly is iconic with just a few lines. But a few lines can curve as well. I think the idea of the memory panels is fabulous. And I'm a little confused. Are these to be like taken off and new ones put on, or, I mean, how, or they're permanent? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I have a speech that I want to give you to put on one of those, you know, but.
So the idea would be that it becomes a living museum, because you can, with that code, that can be reprogrammed.
Oh,
and
I
that.
see. I see.
The panel doesn't have to be changed.
I see.
But we can change on the back end of the messaging, and that's then housed in.
That's a wonderful idea, I think. A really terrific idea. That's all I have. I would just ask, let it be beautiful. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to receive and file the presentation? Moved by Councilman Seer, seconded by Councilman Carmona. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-349, a communication with a request to approve the 2026 Annual City and County Joint Legislative Agenda.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's that time of year again where we approve our annual legislative agenda. We have our legislative breakfast is scheduled for January 9th with our legislative delegation in the county and the health department. We have 7 requests for direct sponsorship for our legislators. The first obvious has been our opposition to any modifications or pension sweeteners for police and fire, Tier 2 modifications. The second is focusing on the missing middle housing issues that we see and the challenges of finding housing for people that make between 80 and 140% of the area median income. The third request came from the police chief, which is some modifications to the Juvenile Court Act of 1987 that would focus on repeat juvenile offenders. The fourth item is the request that the state level off the 911 surcharge for downstate communities, everyone outside of Chicago, and setting that at $2.50. The next item is some clarification on a law that was passed last year pertaining to the certifications for building inspectors. Just asking for more time and some more flexibility for that. I think there'll be some efforts that'll be pushed by the suburban building officials to do that. We have the next two requests are our economic development incentive request, that if the state is looking at what other states are doing, that we become more flexible and nimble in our ability to provide economic development incentives at a state level. We feel that we've got good economic development incentives at a local level, but it's really at the state level that we could use more assistance. And then last, this kind of ties in with what the other item from the police chief. It's just allowing that juvenile police reports could be disclosed, particularly on auto thefts. Right now, it's very difficult. You have to go to court to get that released, and it's difficult if a car is stolen by a juvenile to get that police report released. And so we're just asking that some effort be taken there. We have some funding requests, both vertical and horizontal, but primarily we have 4 appropriations. Mr. Corporation Counsel mentioned one earlier, which was the riverfront funding. We also are waiting on $25 million for Main Street, $3 million more for MacArthur, and $2.5 million for street lighting. Those are appropriations that have been approved by the General Assembly year in and year out over the last several years, and we just haven't been able to get them released from DCO, so we'd like to see that coming forward. Then we have some vertical requests, including the vehicle and pedestrian barrier system for downtown and the riverfront, the warehouse district parking structure, and then the relocation of the State Street Post Office. We have several road requests, if there's funding available: Pioneer Parkway, Laramie Avenue, Prospect Avenue, University, and then the Springdale Cemetery Road Network. And then we have some general legislative support items that we've included over the last several years, as well as we have the request that came from Councilman Kelly for the site valuation tax, which would change the way that we would assess land taxation here inside the city of Peoria. And so that's our legislative agenda.
Councilmember Regenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very good comprehensive list, Mr. Manager. I think it encompasses many of the things that we talk about frequently, and I'm happy to see the opposition to any Tier 2 pension obligations being the #1 item on the list. But in light of the next council agenda item, I think it would be appropriate to perhaps add another item, and I'm not sure the exact verbiage we want, but to ask the state to increase funding for homelessness support, for mental health resources and facilities, and support for substance abuse treatment and facilities. Those are things that are often discussed here, and our hands are frequently tied, so if we could put that on and finesse that as you did the other items, if you would, but let's make sure that those are included in our list.
We can do that. What
So,
area would that be? Well, who's tied up? Just trying to determine the category. What category might that be, Mr. Manager, adding homeless, funding for the unhoused, funding for mental health and substance abuse?
I think we can put it under another position support, and that way they know that that's something that we would certainly advocate for and ask that they would support if there's those appropriation efforts going forward.
Okay, good recommendation, thank you. The only thing that I would want to see, Mr. Manager, I think it's a great comprehensive request list, but once we get it approved by council and before it's sent out to all the places that it will go, I would just want to make some formatting adjustments.
Okay.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion? A move by Councilman Riggenbach, seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any other Excuse me. Yes, and with those additions that Councilman Riggenbach recommended. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-350, a communication with a request to approve an agreement with Phoenix Community Development Services to support New Hope Apartments at 301 Northeast Jefferson in the amount not to exceed $300,000.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn the floor over to our Community Development Director, Joe Doolin, to walk through this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Manager. I apologize a little bit for the wording of the item in front of you. This was all happening last week, and we need to get something to put in place with you to have a discussion. So we'll be asking for a slightly different request towards the end. But I wanted to walk you through kind of the current situation because I think there's been a lot of reports out there and a lot of things going on, and I want to kind of make sure everyone is on the same page where we're at. So a little historical background. New Hope Apartments is a permanent supportive housing complex located at 301 Northeast Jefferson. It's kind of a joint effort owned by Peoria Opportunities Foundation and Phoenix Community Development Services, with Phoenix Community Development Services kind of managing the day-to-day at the property. They really are the partner that we go to when we are trying to provide housing, when a lot of different other places in the city of Peoria won't take someone for when they're ready to be housed. Whether that's a history of evictions, poor credit, just some struggles that they need a place. They're ready. They've gone through the processes. They've cooperated with our social service agencies. They're ready to be housed, but we're still trying to get over that hurdle of finding housing. So they work really hard with us. When we relocated people out of the motel project last year, a lot of residents went to New Hope Apartments. So unfortunately, the last 2 or 3 months, they've seen some struggles due to some tenant behavior that they have made some decisions they got rid of the tenants that were causing the issues. So it's not a reflection of all the tenants in the space. It's a reflection of a few, and it's caused problems for everyone there. October 14th, they had someone tamper with one of the sprinkler heads. That caused 12 units to be damaged, 8 of units which then they were able to get back online, but left 4 units down. Then unfortunately on September 20th, they had another fire that was intentionally set by a resident. That one caused damage to 20 units, security system, elevator, control access systems, and the fire alarm system. Both of those incidences were reported to their insurance company for claims. They're working through those issues. Unfortunately, after that October 20th incident, their insurance company then dropped them from coverage due to the multiple claims they have. They're still trying to figure out going forward about the insurance issue as well. That gets us to kind of why we're here today. Last Tuesday, there was another intentionally set fire at the property on the 5th floor. It caused the sprinkler system to go off, causing additional significant damage to multiple units at the building, leaving about 34 units at the building unfit for human habitation. At that point, city staff had a meeting with our fire department. The damage was done to the point too, the fire alarm system was not operational. So the sprinkler system still works at the property, which is great, but there's no active fire alarm system at the property. In talking to the fire department, without that fire alarm system, they did not feel like it was safe to occupy unless fire watch was put in place 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so unfortunately, Phoenix, based on all those incidences, did not have the staffing to do it, and we wanted professional staff to be able to handle it. The cost to a fire watch for the standard we need is about $2,500 a day. It's 2 workers overnight working with the Phoenix staff and then 1 worker during the day. After that fire, we reached out on Thursday of last week to the state of Illinois. Christine Haley put us in contact with the Department of Human Services, and then they also, everyone reached out to the Red Cross. We're very, very lucky the Red Cross stepped up and said, we'll help in this situation. Unfortunately, they provide temporary assistance. That's kind of the nature of what they do. So they said, but we'll come in for the next 14 days, set up in your auditorium, just help have some more personnel in the building. They provide all the food for the residents affected by the fire, and just kind of handle the auditorium issue. Some of the residents that were in those units that were displaced ended up in the auditorium as kind of a temporary makeshift shelter while we go through. So Red Cross has been very supportive of those efforts and kind of helped us put together this plan to get us where we're at today. So that kind of is the past of where we've been at. We've been kind of troubleshooting day by day, things that have come up at that building. And so then kind of where do we go forward here in the request in front of you? I think part of it, it's important to understand New Hope has operated at a deficit for a significant amount of time. They aren't able to save up large kind of capital money for future needs. And a lot of that is due to the structure of their various grants they get from the federal government. They have a grant from the federal government that provides about $415 per month in rent subsidy per unit. Another one for about $500 or $600. They just don't keep up with the needs of the building. It costs about $140,000 for them to have it staffed 24/7. It costs about $80,000 or $90,000 for pest control all year. And then obviously their insurance costs were very high too. So it's not like over the years they've been able to severely save up for these emergencies. A lot of times when they have tenants moving in and out, it costs a substantial amount of money to get the units back online. And all those things kind of contribute to the financial issues they were having at the property. So we've been working with them the last 6 to 9 months on trying to figure out a solution long term. And then unfortunately with the federal government changes that may or may not be taking place, and I'll get into that in a second, it provides just a lot of uncertainty going forward for the nature of this property. So a lot of that said, where we kind of go from here, Red Cross is exiting the property on December 18th. Unfortunately, at that point, we will be at a place where the people in the auditorium are going to be not allowed to be at the building, and that represents about 20 to 22 people. The good news is, at this moment, Pathway Ministries and Dream Center both have capacity to handle those 22 people. So if they will have a place to go in a shelter if they choose to do so. One of the things that we really struggled with last week was if the building is posted and we have to make room for 80 people, the shelters indicated they don't have the capacity to do that. But they did have the capacity for the 22 individuals that are in the auditorium. Unfortunately, just with the Red Cross not being able to provide the staffing levels for the auditorium and Phoenix not having the staff capacity to continue to provide that fire watch there, that's kind of the path we're going to have to take. After that, the next kind of deadline we're looking for the occupied units is February 28th. With the changes at the federal level to go from permanent supportive housing to to transitional housing, the rent mechanisms and grants for that property just do not make sense. So our recommendation tonight is to kind of, for you guys to authorize the city manager up to $300,000 of the $520,000 we have remaining that were specifically repurposed from American Rescue Plan money to general fund money, but still with the intention of using it towards homelessness services, to give the city manager the authority to use that to kind of minimize the impact as much as we possible. It'll pay for the 24/7 fire watch at the property of the security guards up until about February 28th, when we'll be looking at the property likely shutting down as it's currently situated. And then also add, that will cost about $225,000, we're guessing, based on what we're currently spending and what the contract is with the security firm. That'll leave us about $75,000 of that $300,000 to have some further assistance for the tenants that we will be looking to relocating and find different housing options for. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Phoenix representatives are here as well. I think, it's obviously a Band-Aid on a situation that's bad, that I wish I had a better solution long-term for in our community. I think the federal government changes about going from permanent supported to transitional housing were something that is going to cause our social service agencies a lot of problems going forward. Yesterday, in response to a lawsuit by multiple jurisdictions across the United States who are suing over the changes, HUD actually rescinded the notice of funding opportunity and the changes that were in that. The problem with that is they rescinded the NOFO, so there is no current NOFO out for continuum of cares to actually respond to. So it was already a delayed process that likely the funding wasn't going to go out to social service agencies until May of next year. The grants that were anticipated to start going into place in January, February, March, just depending on those timelines. So by rescinding the NOFO, making changes and putting it out again, it's likely that May deadline is actually going to be pushed further into the future, which will not only leave these projects, but some other projects in our community in limbo, not exactly sure what funding is available and not funding available. So I think after multiple discussions with all of our social service agencies and our partners, and just the capital needs at New Hope and the struggles it's had, that needs to be our path going forward, is to look at that February 28th kind of as a deadline of trying to get all of the social service agencies rallying together, trying to find and minimize the impact as much as possible, similar to what we did with the motel project last year.
That's a lot. Councilman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Doolin, I've told you this before, and I just want to publicly give you your flowers again. This is definitely in the all duties as assigned part of your job description. If you have taken this on and just you just given us all of this, and I know, this isn't necessarily your lane, but you're running with this, and I know you have a staff behind you, and so I just want to commend you for that. And then also shout out to President Call and the rest of her staff from Phoenix. And this is such an unfortunate situation that you all find yourselves in. And so the silver lining of this, fortunately, we still have this allocation remaining from our American Rescue Plan funds. I agree it's a Band-Aid to a very severe wound, but what we don't want to have happen is 72 individuals find themselves unhoused as we enter the coldest part of the winter coming up. So I definitely will be supporting this effort tonight and hope that some of these challenges to some of the federal actions, are able to be reversed, because unfortunately the forecast is not looking good as we look to try to address this issue of the unhoused in our community. So again, thank you to you, thank you to everyone involved, and I'll be supporting this tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're very welcome. Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Doolin, I really appreciate all the additional work that you're doing to try to solve issues like this. It's greatly appreciated, I'm sure. I just want to make sure that I heard correctly and clarify the lapse of insurance. So after their insurance was dropped, were they notified, and did they get other insurance? I'm not sure if I heard that part.
Yeah, so from, and Chris Call's here, but from this will be their third claim in about 4 months to already multiple claims throughout the years, just based on kind of the nature of the business. They do have some liability on the insurance. It's basically on the property. Yes, they were aware that they didn't have property insurance at the time. They are trying to see what they can do. This isn't necessarily just a New Hope problem. It's kind of a problem we're seeing across the country in some of these permanent supportive housing facilities, that tenants are sometimes cause issues and are very hard on the building. So they're exploring every option that they can. There might be an opportunity in the future to find that insurance. That's what they're diligently working on. But yes, they were aware.
Thank you for that. I'm inclined to support this because obviously we have the funds to do it directly for that purpose. I wish we had a way to recoup some of that cost, not for obviously City Hall, but because the fund that we have is not going to last forever, and we're going to need it indefinitely. So like I said, I'm going to support this, but I hope that we can somehow recoup some of that cost through the insurance. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And we will have those conversations with Phoenix, anything that's eligible from past expenses, things like that. I mean, I think they're willing to work with us on all those things as well. We've had many discussions with the state, with Jason Marks at the Emergency Management the county about what we could maybe submit to the state too. So we will explore all that. I'm not sure if we will get anything back or what we can do, but we're continuing to look at that, and we'll make sure to look at everything we can.
People often ask us, what keeps you up at night? Well, I know that this situation has literally kept you and your team, Chris calling her team, up at night and working overtime, and throughout the day and night. So I want to express our appreciation for your efforts and your leadership in trying to resolve this situation. What involvement has, I see CEO Crawford here with PHA, what involvement has the Peoria Housing Authority had in this?
Yeah, so sorry I didn't mention that. Part of that discussion, they are involved of what happens on February 28th. You know, there are multiple different funding sources for the tenants in these properties, different rental subsidies, different vouchers. Director Crawford met with Kate Green at the Continuum of Care and Chris Call last week about possibly whatever they could do, they could look into about transferring some of their project-based vouchers into tenant-based vouchers that can go with them. I mean, when we talk about some of the residents at New Hope, some of them have been there for 4 or 5 years, not caused any issues, would be good tenants in other locations if those vouchers can go with them. So she's been a great support working with us, willing to have those conversations with us, use their creativity to do whatever's possible. And I think that's kind of what it's going to take with the other funding sources that the continuum of care might lose, is what we can do to maximize every resource we have available. And the Housing Authority, just as they were with the motel project and moving people into different units, continue to want to be a partner with us in this discussion as well. So appreciate their help. Sorry, I did not mention that,
All right,
but
thank you.
I had
Thank
a
you,
long
Ms. Crawford.
item. So
Yes, thank you for your contributions. Councilmember Euler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I had heard the County Board of Health was asked for over $100,000 yesterday for the same effort. Are there other organizations that are being asked for funding as well? And what is the status of those?
Yeah, so we had a discussion with Monica Henderson at the Peoria County Health Department. If you all remember, we gave them substantial money from American Rescue Plan, specifically for housing. Then the county matched that. Since then, we've launched the flexible rent program that they gave back the money to the city, but it doubled because it was the county's money, to essentially, not to veer off topic, but a program that essentially allowed us some really flexible money to help those who are experiencing homelessness who have an income. So you're someone who might be on Social Security and get a monthly check every month that could go into senior housing, but they don't have the money for the deposit or the moving expense. That program has been in place for about 1.5 years now. We've been able to successfully place about 63 different units of people experiencing homelessness into housing. That money, because of our success and not needing as much per family as we thought we would, we have money left over that still needs to be spent by the end of 2026. It has a little longer shelf life of American Rescue Plan money because we have a contract with them to do it, even though they gave us back the money. So we feel this kind of fits really well into that program. So that is why we made an ask of getting that money, because A, it needs to be spent, B, it fits well into there. And so kind of that's where that ask came from. I think your question of asking other money from people, we haven't made a direct ask of other organizations yet. We did have a call with multiple organizations about how they can support this effort. That's where the Red Cross came in to provide the food and the supplies and things like that. We have had multiple discussions with Carl and OSF about making sure they have healthcare professionals going in and out of the site now and kind of until things change, just to address those mental health issues and provide that mental health support. But as those are the kind of resources we've been looking for, we haven't made a financial ask to anyone else yet.
So if they were to approve this, is that in addition to the 300 that's on our agenda, or is that part of this 300,000?
I think I don't have quite the answer to that. I think we would use that money obviously first as much as we can, specifically because that money is designed for the flexible rent and has more of a deadline than our money. I think, we're asking, originally put the 300,000 up there. Just penciling out what the fire watch is going to cost till February 28th is about $225,000. So if we need the additional funds, I think that we will use them. But to answer your question, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, they don't meet again till January 26th. So even if they made a decision on January 26th, we'd have liked to be between now and then working to provide tenants other opportunity and provide some of that financing necessary. I think if they do provide that, we'd obviously use that money first.
This $225,000 until late February, is that just to have someone keeping a watch on the property?
Yes.
I manage a 24-hour door staff at another building, and that's what I spend for the entire year. So I would really encourage you to take another look at that.
Yeah, so last Wednesday, when we had to find a fire watch, had to really appreciate the police department who called 4 or 5 different security companies to see if they would offer assistance. They all said no. They all said either A, they don't have fire watch insurance to be able to cover it, or they're just not interested in providing that assistance. We were able to find one firm who was. It's about $65 an hour per employee. From the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, we have 2 employees, and then the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. we have 1. And they have to be walking as the fire watch, kind of walking each floor every 20 minutes. So that's kind of the requirement that we have to have in place, and kind of being transparent with where that money's coming from and how it penciled out.
So does it really take a security professional to watch and see if somebody started a fire?
There's some insurance requirements involved to be. I think that's what makes our fire department feel more comfortable to do is, and then it also helps that they are security personnel to make sure that if other issues are coming up, they can assist with those as well.
And then am I correct to understand that Phoenix has no insurance on any facility at this point?
Any facility in Peoria?
Correct. Or it's
No.
just New Hope?
Just New Hope.
But the other properties are insured?
Yep.
Okay. I thought you had said this was a bigger problem with the insurance than just this building, so I wanted to clarify.
No, I mean like
that.
globally, like
Okay.
other permanent supportive housing across the country are seeing these similar issues of being
I
dropped.
just wanted to make sure if this is something we could be discussing about another building at another date.
No, right now, yeah, the other ones. And the other ones are all pretty much newer construction. I think one of the other things going against this building is I think it was built in 1920. So it's an older building. Most of the other projects are fairly new construction, so much better warranties on stuff, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Gordon Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to take time out to thank you, Director Doolin, and your staff, but also to thank the staff of Phoenix Development. You know, you're working hard, and it's like every time you take one step forward, there's 2 or 3 steps back, you know, between funding cuts, between, you know, just the lack of housing that we have in this community, and then here we have this happen. I want to say to the residents, I see you. I see you. I just had somebody today come up to me crying and afraid that she wasn't going to have a place to stay, and she said that she stays at New Hope, right? You know, we are committed. I am committed to helping any way that I can. I think this is something that goes beyond the $300,000, way beyond that. I mean, it's like it put a hole there because that could have been used to elevate, right? But things happen. And as a community, I think this is times when we come together, and we definitely should come together. You definitely have my support on this. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilman Regenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Director Doolin, not to sound like a stuck record here, but thank you for being the quarterback who brought all this team together in so many ways. And I see Nicole Morrow, our housing coordinator, in the background. We know the work that she does in this space also. So Nicole, thank you very much for being here. And the Red Cross, Phoenix, the Continuum, PHA, I mean, what a team. And I think I've heard the phrase, it takes a village. You know, truly thank you, all of you, for being part of this. And if there's any affirmation as to the request I made to add to our legislative agenda about the need for more funding. I think this just really exemplifies why we need more funding, and whether it's at the federal level, and I understand the Continuum has had conversations with Congressman LaHood, who's going to be meeting with the HUD secretary. So, I mean, you know, we just need to be advocating every chance we get, and I'm so glad to see so many of the residents of New Hope here. I think that's a powerful message for us to understand what's happening to these people that live here in Peoria alongside of us. So thank you for coming out, and let's move for the approval of this item. And I would like to offer the correct verbiage, if I may.
Yes.
So the communication should read, this is a communication from the city manager and the director of community development with a request to authorize the city manager to spend an amount not to exceed $300,000 to assist with New Hope Apartments located at 301 Northeast Jefferson.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Gordon Young. Any additional discussion? Councilmember Kelly.
Director Doolin, again, as everyone has said, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Is it true that the perpetrators of lighting fires, et cetera, were arrested, were put in the county jail, and the charges were dropped by the state's attorney?
I don't know the specifics. Chris, do you? You wanna?
Only the perpetrator of the fire that was done October 20th. Because since that took down the security cameras, we are not able to determine who set the fire last Tuesday. There's no footage. So that perpetrator on October 20th was arrested, was released within hours from the jail, and then the charges were dismissed by the state's attorney's office. That's correct.
How about the other incidents?
The sprinkler one, there was no arrest made on that charge.
I thought we had multiple fires.
That's what I'm saying. The fire October 20th resulted in the arrest that got dismissed. The fire last week, there's no security cameras or to show who did it. It was on the 5th floor of a building. I do think you could be referring that our agency had a third fire at a different building. That was a deliberate arson, and that person remains in custody. That is not a New Hope resident. That was at Madison Apartments 1.
Was there one of these suspected arsonists or whatever tried to get back into New Hope and was told you can't come back here?
That's correct. There's a process, and we have, the police chief has been down there with us. There's a legal process you have to go through to publicize no trespass. But additionally, the assistance from Director Doolin helped in that unit that was damaged, they were able to come very quickly and say that unit could not be habitated, or uninhabitable for the condition it was in. So that then gave us more emphasis to be able to say, or, more permission to turn the person away. Because our clients are leaseholders. They hold a lease, and so they are protected by landlord-tenant law in the state of Illinois. And so there are certain processes that we have to engage. But we are very much aware that tenant behaviors caused the 3 incidents in that building that got us here today.
I'm glad that you are trying because those folks, I think, have forfeited their...
That is correct.
Yeah.
But I want to draw your
Thank you.
attention, people have talked about the residents that are here. That
I don't see any,
residents that
I
cause
don't
the
see
problem are
any
the exception.
arsonists here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Councilman Riggenbach read the motion that's a little different from what you see on the agenda. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Director Doolin. Thank you to all the partners. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25351, a communication with the request for the following. A, approve an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peoria and the Greater Peoria Sanitary District for the outfall pipe repairs project in the low bid amount of $1,574,210 with an additional authorization of $157,420 for contingencies for a total project amount of $1,731,630. And B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2025 revised budget relating to the sewer fund budget for fiscal year 2025 to increase construction costs as a result of actual bid costs exceeding the planned budget for the outfall pipe repairs project in the amount of $691,630. This requires 2/3 vote of the council, no less than 6 votes. And this will also require 2 separate votes for A and B.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to ask that Director Powers walk through this item.
Mr. Manager, Mayor, Council, good evening. Actually, the clerk summarized it very well. Basically, there's one bid. It's our standing partnership with GPSD and ongoing outfall repairs. One bid was received by the district. It greatly exceeded what we had anticipated from the engineer's estimate. We were able to identify funding to meet the requirement and go forward with the agreement, if you agree. The district has already signed the agreement, as you may note. The locations are noted on a map enclosed, and I'll stand by for any further questions you may have.
Questions? Can I get a motion? Councilman Euler moved for item A, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember
Thank you,
Euler
Council.
moved for item B, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-352, a communication with the request for the following. A, accept the transportation grant from the Illinois Department of Transportation in the amount of $66,213. And B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2025 revised budget relating to the general fund to recognize the receipt of the transportation grant funding from the Illinois Department of Transportation in the amount of $66,213. This item is, also requires 2/3 vote of the council, and we'll need 2 separate votes.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to the police chief to walk through this item.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, City Manager. This grant is to improve highway safety to programs that were described to this grant. There's 14 key areas that we'll focus on, but the main thing to understand is this is those campaigns that you see, click it or ticket, sober driving campaigns, and we have specific dates that we'll be doing these campaigns, and that's what this funds, that overtime for our #1 complaint in our city, traffic.
Any questions for the chief? Congratulations on the grant.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion? Moved by Councilman Allen, seconded by Councilwoman Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. This is item A. Motion passes unanimously. Councilman Allen? Item B, seconded by Councilwoman Gordon Young. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-353, a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance proposing the extension of the duration of the Westlake Special Service Area in the city of Peoria, Illinois, increasing the Westlake Special Service Area sales tax rate, and providing for a public hearing and other procedures in connection therewith.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the request of the property owner, Westlake Shopping Center LLC, they are requesting that they would increase the special service area supplemental sales tax rate from 0.75% to 1%, and extending the termination date of the SSA to July 13th, 2055. This would necessitate that we establish a public hearing before we start this process, and that's what's in front of you tonight. This is just setting the date of the public hearing.
Councilman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Mr. Manager said, this is to set the public hearing. I forecast a lot of conversation as we lead up to that public hearing. But again, this is just establishing the public hearing. And so without further ado, I would like to move for approval.
Seconded by Councilman Seer. Any discussion? Councilman Carmona?
Did you guess it was going to be me? Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not a fan of the way we disseminate information and have public hearings here. I'm not blaming the staff or anybody else. It just is what it is. Unfortunately, not many people have, or citizens have time to listen in to city council, to come here after work and whatnot. I'm not going to support this motion. Big surprise. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. What'd you end with? What was that last statement?
I'm not going to support this motion.
Just making your comment.
Yes, ma'am.
There's
Thank you.
There's no specific recommendation, though,
No,
yet.
not yet.
Coming.
It will be prepared.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Carmona. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 1 nay. Carmona. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-354, a communication with the request to receive and file the month ended October 31st, 2025, unaudited financial report.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to our Finance Director, Kyle Craddy.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The report in front of you tonight is for the end of October. We have 2 more months of reports for the year. What I will say is it's going to be kind of similar to the reports I've been giving you over the last few months. We are slightly below budget on revenue, but we are closing the gap of what it was last month. Last month it was around 3%, so now we're about 1%, so that trend will continue. On the expense side, we are below budget on our expenses. And in both cases, we're ahead of where we were last year, so those are really good trends in terms of what our expectations were. If you go a little bit deeper into the report, you'll see kind of where I have the kind of my still belief and the conversations that I have with council on where we'll end the year. If you look at the specific charts around home rule sales tax, state sales tax, income tax, and property tax specifically, those are on a cash basis. So the trend that obviously we're seeing is that we're seeing numbers that are larger than that are above last year. So I'm still comfortable in what we told council during the budget process is where we'll end the year. And with that, I'm available if there's any specific questions from council.
Thank you, Director Craddy. Councilman Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Director Craddy. Just a quick question with the property replacement tax. What were your estimate for the 26? I don't remember for the 26 budget.
The 26 budget, IML at the time of the budget had an increase of about 5% for next year. So I think our number was around $10.5 million was our estimate for next year.
For next year, okay. Thank you, sir. And just, I don't know if it's a question, just a comment. I mean, it's getting late here. There's a couple items on page 9 of 10 under expenditures. I'm just concerned a little bit every time we go over 5 or 10%. We have 2 items that actually are over 19 and 20%. I'm just going to keep an eye on that. Hopefully, maybe I can talk to you tomorrow or in the future about that. I don't really have any questions for that, but it's just a big miss so far, so I'll probably give you a call, just talk about that.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I'd just like to move to receive and file.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Item number 25-355, a communication with a request to receive and file a presentation on the City of Peoria strategic plan.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I'm going to do right now is turn it over to our Assistant City Manager to walk through a presentation on the strategic plan, and as well to talk through the dashboard that we have that will, track the measurement and progress that we're making towards achieving the strategic plan.
Wonderful.
All right, I will be brief in my comments because the night is getting late. So good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. What I wanted to do tonight is give you a brief update on where we're at with the strategic plan. Councilman Riggenbach, I remember in 2023 when I came up to the council and requesting for this funding to do the strategic plan that was a community-informed process. You wanted to make sure that we were implementing the plan and not just doing this as a rudimentary activity or exercise. So tonight I want to show you as the council, over the last 2 years, our effort in implementing the current strategic plan. I want to update you also on just the process and the systematic approach we've taken to ensure accountability and measurable outcomes, something that you all requested as part of this process. So tonight, I'm so excited to publicly display our dashboard, which is now on our website, and I am going to figure out how to do this. There we go. I'm good. So, as you recall, we have our 6 priorities of our strategic plan, which is quality of life, downtown development, community safety, and embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion, business growth and prosperity, and infrastructure. So the staff, as we began to do the process of implementation, we really had to think about the framework for how we wanted to do this. And what's in front of you is how we as the departments started looking at our strategic plan. We have this very clear policy direction from the council, which is at the top. Those are the priorities that you have set forth. And then within the strategic plan itself, you have objectives. So that's the community level outcomes that we focused on. And then what we took is a different approach. For the last 2 years, we have been meeting as a leadership team every month for almost 2.5 to 3 hours at times, figuring out how do we execute the strategic plan in a more comprehensive and collaborative effort. So no more siloing our efforts to being public safeties only for police and fire, or quality of health is community development, or infrastructure is public works. Every department, as you've seen in the budget process, has a piece of how we implement your priority, your policy direction. And so this is just to demonstrate the process for which we look at the activities that we're going to be showing you on the dashboard. Secondly, we use this also as a tool to create an internal team outside of the leadership team. So the leadership team includes our directors and our number 2s within the departments. But we also decided that, you know what, this is a great opportunity to involve our staff, our junior staff, in this process of implementation. And so it's more of a training ground for them as well. So what we have done over the course of the last year is we have gotten some improvement processes that they have been looking at. And so you don't see them in the strategic plan dashboard today, but you will in 2026. And this team of staff, which I have to commend them, they are doing this on top of the work that they're already doing in their departments, and some of them even coming off night shifts to come to a morning session to do these activities. They are defining their practices within the strategic plan, and they're looking at a number of process improvements that will help facilitate some of the activities that we are going to discuss. I also want to take the moment to just identify those staff just real quickly, just because those individuals really have put a lot of effort, and I want to publicly acknowledge them. From Human Resources, we have Tanya Rickman and Ryan Elpeter. From our legal department, we have Max Walton and Stephanie Thornhorst. excuse me. For our city manager's office, we have Uriah Kilgallen and Blake Eggleston. Fire, we have Nick O'Connor. Police Department, we have Chris Collins. IS, Jason Biller. Community Development, Lamnia Doey and Matt Smith. Finance Department, Christina Ingold and Amanda Hall. ECC, Brianna Agnew, and Public Works, Loretta Adams. And I just want to acknowledge those staff members because they have really put in a lot of effort and time and energy in talking to their staff, their colleagues, to help us think about from their lens how we can better implement the strategic plan. So I just want to give them some kudos. So let's get on to the show. This is really what I'm here to show you tonight, is our strategic plan dashboard. And I practiced this morning and yesterday, so hopefully we are able to get this going. All right, Paul, now the keyboard doesn't want to work. Is it on? Let's see. I did this twice, and now it doesn't do it. Let's see. Now I'm going to unfinished business. This is what happened when you want to do technology in real time. Apologies, I'm going to keep us moving. Yep, see? We practiced this. Anyway, so as Paul continues to get us going, I will talk through the dashboard. So our dashboard is now live on our city website at peoriagov.org/strategic plan. And where you will be able to see the dashboard, you will also be able to see the plan and all the activities that led up to the creation of the plan. So what is nice about the plan is that it's iterative. It's not a document, it is a living dashboard. What does that mean? So on a monthly or weekly basis, on a monthly or quarterly basis, we're looking to make updates to the plan. Now, sometimes we have to say, not everything is given to us on a monthly basis, so that's why we're still trying to figure out, will a quarterly or weekly basis work? Thank you. So I am going to, this is a big, I have to tell you, the mouse is bigger than the actual screen size, but we'll work with it. Zoom, there we go. So what I would like to show you today is where does the city plan live? So if you see, every priority is displayed on the dashboard. When you click on the dashboard, you then begin to be able to see, and now this has gotten too big, excuse me. We practiced this and it's still, so you'll see that this is the council's not only priority, but their goal, which is displayed here. And then here, where you see under descriptions, these are your objectives. These were how do we actually fix these issues to actually address the goal that we want to be able to achieve. And so what you're seeing here is, as we continue to fill out the strategic plan and continue to do the work, we will begin to fill these in. So as the last budget process, you saw the department had goals. So what we are now showing you here is, if you go to financial stability, you'd see the activities that are upcoming that we've identified in our budget process that the departments are going to be focusing on. And as you see in here, we also talk about things that we're working on that may not be able to currently be displayed. So what's nice is that you're getting to see real-time activities being worked on as a staff, and over time where it says upcoming, they will then go to on time. If there's a delay, they will say there will be a signal for showing a delay, or if it's something that's completed, it will show completion. And it'll allow for us to even put some explanations and updates at the bottom so that if there's some additional details that we want to display, you're able to do so. So if we continue to go through downtown development, I remember at the meeting in October, we talked about downtown development, and there was a question of why is there nothing present? As you can see in downtown development, we have several areas that we are focusing on. Revitalization and development, downtown safety and livability, riverfront and being a destination location. So when we start looking into the actual activities, what you start seeing is what are we doing as staff to address these issues. So we go into the actual partnership that we're working through. So like tonight with the passage of the Hanks Foundation project, we can add that now to our strategic plan as an activity. And then you keep going down as we're working with our community partners, our CDOs, as they have activities that we are partnering with them, we can then continue to add that information into this. This is a living document. This is not static. So as we have new information, the dashboard we update to reflect that information. And as we grow, because there might be information here that we're not talking about today, but over the course of 2026, as a council, you may have some additional priorities within the current 6 priorities that you want us to focus on, and then we can add those objectives into the strategic plan as we continue to build this out. This is going to continue for now up until the end of this current plan, which is scheduled to conclude in 2029. Now, we'll be at that point, council make a decision probably in 2028, how we want to proceed in 2029 with reviewing the plan. But the document on a quarterly basis will be presenting to some form of fashion to council and update us as to the dashboard. As we continue to train staff and as we continue to iterate and look at how we can better present things, you will see some additional updates to this aesthetically as well as information-wise. So again, we will love your feedback and your, if there's any feedback from your perspective that you want to make sure is being reflected, we would love to hear that, and we will definitely to receive that feedback. And of course, we want this to be understandable to our community members. We want them to be able to see in these activities what they came to a 2-day community engagement activity see reflected as what we're trying to strive for. So with that, I will stop talking and give you the floor to ask any questions. And again, I want to also just really quickly, I want to truly thank my partner in crime in this effort. Kyle Craddy and I have really been hand in hand every single day. I think all we do maybe once a week is talk about strategic plan. And with that, we have 2 excellent, amazing, up-and-coming, just great employees that have really done the effort in making this dashboard be what it looks like today. And I want to acknowledge Blake Eggleston and Amanda Hall for all their efforts. To have to deal with me and Kyle and the amount of information that we're throwing at them all at one time and then telling them, okay, come back and figure out how to make it work. And they always did. I just want to give them a public acknowledgement for their effort, because what you're seeing in front of them is 100% their work and dedication, and it would not have happened without them. So I really want to give them a thank you for their effort. So with that, I'll give the floor back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Manager, for continuing to make the strategic plan a priority and delivering on your promise of a dashboard. I recall that the purple was ACT.
So that was just for the, please don't, those are 2 separate things. So
Okay.
if I go back to the dashboard, that's a good point. So there is a color scheme to this, and we will make sure the legend is up here. But in the legend, you will see when it's upcoming, which means we haven't started the work, it's purple.
Okay.
When we are working through it, it's green for progress. And then when we're completed, it's blue.
Blue, okay.
And we're trying to be mindful of the sensitivity of people's color schemes. And so we're trying to use primary colors that does not impact ADA issues.
Okay, great. I love the color coding, so.
Yes.
Great job, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to give kudos to you, Assistant City Manager Richardson, and the rest of the team here. This is a great accountability tool for our organization and allows for our constituents to go to our dashboard in real time and see how we are performing and what are our growth opportunities as well, too. So I appreciate you all, and under your leadership, I'm not surprised that we have this. And a shout out to the POP model. I know a little bit about the POP model, so but yeah, just wanted to give you your flowers on this and the rest of the team. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You want to make a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file this item, ma'am.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman Jackson. Okay. Again, thank you. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Well, I look forward to your feedback, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We are now at unfinished business. Item number 25-334, a communication with the request to concur with the recommendation from staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in the Class CN district to establish a halfway house for the property located at 1924 Southwest Adams Street. The motion on the floor is to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in the Class CN district to establish a halfway house for the property located at 1924 Southwest Adams.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. We have with us our Assistant Community Development Director, Leah Allison, who is here to follow up on this deferral of this item from the last month's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I'll just give a brief recap. Grow Community is here tonight requesting a special use for a halfway house at 1924 Southwest Adams. It's an existing developed property that will include 12 bedrooms to accommodate 10 to 12 parolees as a transitional housing residence. It will be staffed with 3 staff during normal business hours, have 24/7 after-hours security on site as well. The property is zoned commercial, neighborhood commercial. The use is allowed through this process as a special use. I'm happy to answer any questions, but as I mentioned, GROW is here with representatives to answer your questions that you had mentioned at the last meeting and would, like the opportunity to speak to you as well.
Sure. The leading representative for GROW, we'd like to hear from you, and there were some questions that were, that came up in our last meeting, and maybe you can help to answer some of those questions. Yes, please.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and the Peoria City Council. My name is Francine Poole, and I serve as the Director of Real Estate and Development for Grow Community. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you regarding our proposed acquisition and development for 1924 Southwest Adams Street. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to hear me out, because as the real estate director, and then also hear the re-entry director, so you can get a little bit of an idea about how the program is. So if you would just hold your questions to the end, I would sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you. Can you spell your last name for me?
Sure. Poole is Poole. At Grow Community, my role is to oversee all property acquisition, development, planning, rehabilitation oversight, and compliance with state and municipal requirements. Every project we pursue undergoes a strict and comprehensive due diligence process to ensure that we are investing responsibly and that our work contributes meaningfully to the communities we serve. Before we move forward on any property, including 1924 Southwest Adams, we follow a structured evaluation process. We hired a local reputable architect that the City of Peoria approves. We conduct a full professional inspection to identify structural needs, environmental concerns, and required upgrades. We prepared a detailed pro forma outlining expected costs, contingencies, and long-term operational stability. This information is then submitted to IDA, which is the Illinois Housing Development Authority, which reviews our plans and provides an initial approval before we proceed to any form of acquisition. Please note that IDA is a state institution that has a very rough and tough, thorough evaluation process. We have done other projects with IDA in Chicago, in which demonstrates our credibility and ability to deliver a good product. Once IDA gives preliminary confirmation, we move into the initial closing checklist, which includes verifying zoning compliance. This is why we are before the City Council today seeking a special use permit. an essential step in our process to ensure that the property's future use aligns with the city requirements and community expectations. Regarding concerns about renovation costs, here is the financial structure of our project. Grow Community has been awarded $475,000. It's a grant through IDA for this development. Our purchase price for the property is $207,500. All remaining funds, over $250,000, are allocated directly to repairs and rehabilitation of the property. Much of the construction work will be performed by Grow Construction, our internal construction division. And some of the participants are in Grow Construction. So once they get out of the program, they actually get hired to be part of the Grow Construction family, which significantly reduces labor expenses and ensures quality control throughout the project. We anticipate beginning this project in spring of 2026 with targeted completion date in the fall of 2027. Our timeline accounts for permitting, supply availability, workforce scheduling, and the detailed rehabilitation needed to bring this property to the standard our organization is known for. This project represents more than a building, it represents opportunity, revitalization, and long-term stability for residents who need it most. We are committed to transparency, responsible investment, and sustained collaboration with the City of Peoria. We thank you so much for your time, your consideration, and your continued support as we work to bring high-quality community services to Peoria. I will now turn this over to our Director of Reentry, Gregory Williams.
Thank you for your time, council members and Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Medication is wearing off. Pain is emanating, but that's okay. It's for a worthy cause. Grow Community. I've been with Grow Community a little over 5 years now, working, started as a therapist, did the first pilot program for the workforce development program. They're successfully running right now in Chicago. Additionally, I've been supervisor for the community department, which handles just regular walk-ins and people just coming in off the streets, et cetera. Now I'm currently the director of reentry, and I work with men who are dealing with severe trauma, not only the trauma that they have experienced in the streets, but the trauma that they experience while incarcerated. One of the things I want you to remember about Grow Community is that it's healing boys and restoring men, thus transforming the community by making sure that we take time out to pour into individuals that have been traumatized as well as being incarcerated. And if I had time, I would want you to understand something very seriously that resonates with the incarcerated population. I met a young man that I worked with. He had been in the Cook County Jail for approximately somewhere between 3 to 6 months. The individual got out on bond finally, went home, stayed with his girlfriend. What happened is that in the middle of the night, this young man got up, and I want you to know that I have been working with this young man for a while. And I have been working with his fiance also, because the trauma extends all the way to the household sometimes. And so while working with them, it became more like family counseling versus me just counseling him. And that was no charge to them. That was just a charge to them and that was paid by insurance. It's not out of pocket. And so we also do pro bono. And I want to make sure you understand that when we can't get the insurance for the individual, we work primarily with men, we will do it pro bono. All it needs to do is to be approved. But I want you to realize that this, as I digress, I want to go back to the young man, that as he got up in the middle of the night, he woke up in the middle of the night, went to go relieve himself to use the restroom. However, he got up and did not make it to the restroom. He made it to the wall and the dresser. While I received the call at around 11 o'clock at night, I noticed that it was on my Google line, which means that it's a client calling. This is when I was doing actual therapy. The gentleman was asleep, went back to sleep. She tells me, she gets on the phone, she said, Mr. Williams, you need to come and get him. You need to do something right now. I said, do what? What's going on? She tells me, say, he's walked over by my dresser, urinated on the dresser and the wall, and he got back in bed like nothing happened and went back to bed. I want you to understand how traumatized these individuals are prior, even after they have been incarcerated. I said, well, let's do this. Let him stay until I can come tomorrow and we'll talk. Long story short, I get over there and I talk to them. I ask the gentleman, I separate them because I need to have them to talk to me in private. Then I need to talk to her, and then I need to talk to them together. I talk to them and he lets me know. I said, so I have a question for you because you urinated in the house. And he said, I don't even recall that. I said, were you sleepwalking? Do you think you were sleepwalking? No, we eliminated that. The other piece that I understood, then I started asking him another question. Draw me an outline of your cell. And when he finished drawing me the outline of the cell in proximity to where the bedroom was situated, that's where the toilet was. Do you understand that it is embedded in them when they come out? Not all, but most. There is a severe level of trauma that they experience while they are incarcerated. So we need to be there to help them. They asked me to take over the reentry department, and it has grown in Chicago, and we have a program that works. We have a program that's sustained. There are 3 gentlemen here, at least, that have stories that are success stories, that are working for GROW. One is in school in Governor State University now. We've seen tremendous transformations. So without any hesitation, I really want you to realize that they have been through some traumatic experiences, but they have been able to overcome. And so some of the barriers that we deal with is transportation when they come out. So you have transportation issues. Why do you have transportation issues? I'm glad you asked. Because there are barriers going through different neighborhoods and territories. Because sometimes what they have done while they were on the outside that caused them to go into on the inside does not allow them to walk freely through different areas. In GROW Community, we help solve that problem. And how do we solve that problem? By allowing our therapists to go to them. This works. This also, I want you to know, it helps them to deal with their parole stipulations. Some of their parole stipulations require that they go in different places to do different things. Get their identification, making sure that they have insurance, parole stipulation. They have to have therapy. That's where we come in. That's where the reentry department starts at, therapy. The therapeutic process is important, very important for this population, because sooner or later, and I've visited multiple prisons in Illinois. I made it my business this year to see at least, I was in at least a dozen prisons. I made it my business to do that because I wanted to see where are the people going, and do the cities have a plan for this population? And we have a plan. And there's not planning for every situation, but we have a plan for this population, and I want you to understand something. I believe I can stand now and got my knee is loose.
That's good. You got 1 more minute, please.
That's all I'm gonna take.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna take if you just give me that. So I want you to understand that we will go to the, let me fast track it then since I have 1 minute. We will come to the client and make sure they satisfy their parole stipulations. We have case managers who will also assist in that process. The stipulations usually start with therapy. They also usually, there's a 45 review day period that they need to have had therapy with a counselor. Then we look at the workforce development program, and I'll be through workforce and then the housing. The workforce development is directly tied to that. If you have a reentry counselor, and then you want to go into the workforce development program, what has to happen is that you need to get a recommendation from your therapist. Now, then you have to apply, just like a regular job. So we're training them to go forward, not to be crippling them, but to train them to go forward so that they'll be able to do this. Now, in workforce development, we have a unique thing called, we have screen printing and therapy. So group therapy and screen printing. So now you're getting a dose from the therapist, right? So look at it like medication. They're seeing the therapist 1 to 2 times a week, which is intense outpatient therapy. Now they're in workforce development. They receive, this a 6-hour program and you're paid for 6 hours. Now 3 hours is in the workforce side, learning and training how to do screen printing, shipping and receiving. And the other part is the cognitive behavioral therapy workforce model, so that you have therapy to deal with workforce situations, because you have, some of our guys have never had employment. Some are at 35, 40 years old and are just now having their first job. So they have to be walked through this process. We have that process. Now, in order to get into housing, you have to apply for it. But you only can apply for it after you've been in the program 8 weeks, which means you have 8 weeks of intense outpatient therapy. And you have work training.
Can you wrap up?
I'm wrapping it up. This is it, the last part, Madam Mayor. Please forgive me. So the last is that we're making sure that they get an honest chance. When you get ready, when they apply for the workforce housing, reentry housing, which is transitional housing, what you have is the opportunity to pay rent. Rent is $100 a week. In Chicago, the average price is $275 a week. When they finish up with the program, we are making sure, there's 3 things they have. They have their therapy, satisfied with the program. They have their work, they're working, and they're earning income. 3, they're in housing, and what we're gonna do when they finish housing, because they have a budget coach, we move forward, and then when they're ready to move, if we transition them into another home, now they have rent receipts, they have work history, and then we will pay their first month's rent. That's what we do at GROW, and that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions from the council. I'm not sure who they'll go to, but I'm going to start with Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Euler.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The main reason why I asked for the deferral at the last meeting was to receive clarification on where these residents would be coming from. One of my main concerns is that I am not supportive of the idea of them coming from areas outside of the city of Peoria.
Okay,
and
so
I have not received anything since that last meeting.
Okay, so let me satisfy that. One of the most important things is if we're coming into a city, we want to work with that city. We're working with the men that are returning home to this city. And so usually that's the residents of this city. We don't go outside the city to get residents for this program. We work within the city limits. So we take the ones that come back from, who have been released from prison. Usually they come back to where they were at home at. And then, or we also work with the people that they bring in, wherever they come from. If they come from and release them in your city, they're in your town. And we're prepared to work with them. But we're not looking to bring people in from other areas as far as that's concerned. That's not what we do.
Do you have some type of a charter or something in writing that outlines that specifically?
If you would like to have a MOU or memorandum of understanding, we'd have no problem producing that for you.
How do you get notified that there is someone eligible for this program? Where do you get them from?
Parole. Usually parole. Like I said, I'm in multiple prisons, and I visited just a vast number of penitentiaries this time. And I've noticed that I've seen Peoria, constantly seeing Peoria, people being released to Peoria, people being released to East St. Louis, people being released everywhere. But that's how we get our information. That's how we work with guys being released. The other piece is that we make sure that if I'm out there, I have them sign a form where we get their information, so we are able to reach back out to them. That's how we really do it. And then now I'm also prepared to meet with parole to see if we can work directly with the commanders in this particular area.
And have you had any type of a community meeting with the folks that own businesses. I don't think there's that many residences, but there's a lot of business owners in that area particularly interested in this concept and what the plan is.
Okay, so I have no, Francine, do you want to answer that question if there is an answer to that?
In terms of meeting with somebody, business owners in the area, are you speaking of specifically on Southwest Adams Street?
Adams Street and the surrounding streets that would be affected by the change in zoning.
Yeah, well, you know, I was around there and I didn't really see any real businesses that were thriving. I mean, the position where that Adams Street property is on a corner and it's kind of desolate.
Well, I think one of the neighbors who's here next door would probably take exception to you saying their business isn't thriving, so.
I mean, what I mean by thriving, and I apologize to that owner. What I mean is that we didn't recognize a lot of businesses there because the position of where the property is, the area is it's desolate. It's quiet. There's not a lot of activity. The property sits back off of Adams, so it sits on a corner. So there's not a lot of activity right there. So again, you know, we didn't talk to any business owners there around the area because simply we just didn't see them when we were there. It was just, it's very quiet where the property sits.
Well, there's quite a few of them here this evening. Would you be open to having a community meeting with them before we take this item up at a future meeting?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
So I would.
May I ask what the concern is?
Yeah, they'd be happy to have a meeting with you to talk about that. So with that, I'd move for a deferral to the second meeting in January so that there's an opportunity to do that with the holidays.
Is there a second to that motion? Yeah. Oh, well. We have a second by Councilman Kelly to defer it. It's up to the council to decide whether to do that or not. His motion was to defer it to the second meeting in January. If anybody wants to speak to the deferral, you can. Are you done, Councilman Euler? Okay. Councilman Jackson, you want to speak to the deferral?
Well, directly related to the referral, if those folks are here tonight, wouldn't it be only fair to give those business people who are present tonight an opportunity to introduce themselves and find out? I spoke with one person on the phone, and Madam Mayor, I travel that area all the time. The closest business that I saw was the bar across the street. There's some warehouse businesses, structures, the old Illinois Furniture Store, which is a warehouse now. And I got a call briefly from, I think, Mr. Corey, who said he was going to be here tonight. So, I mean, it would make sense to me that if these folks are present tonight, please come forward with they're here.
We have a motion to defer unless you're willing to delay that until.
Well, they indicated when I spoke to two of them on the phone, they would come here for the express purpose of conversation tonight.
I understand.
No.
Well, we can vote on the deferral. Do you want to speak to the deferral, Councilman Riggenbach?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the deferral because I have a number of questions that I would like to relay to Ms. Poole after the vote, because there's a number of things. I love the concept of what you do, but how much can I say? With the budget of $450,000, it's just not realistic. So I think there needs to be further discussion, and if you could meet with some of us council members before that next meeting, I think we'd be able to have that back and forth. So I definitely see the need for more time on this.
Okay.
In terms of the budget, the property had a professional inspection done, and our performer is using that inspection. So the property can be done for the amount that I stated, because we've already had the construction crew out. I've had estimates from roofing and windows. So we've already, the budget is there. 450,000 is, 475,000 is the grant. And then the property acquisition cost is 209? So the remainder is what we'll be using to renovate the property. So keep in mind, though, Grow Construction is an internal division too. So we have our own internal division of contractors and skilled laborers that will be doing the renovation. Yeah, I mean, we've already done the performance.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor to defer until the second week in January. There's a second meeting in January. There's also a recommendation that a meeting be held with some of the business owners in the area.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Oh, I need to keep going with this process. Does anybody else want to speak to the deferral? Councilwoman Gordon-Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to know if we could clarify for Grow what the expectation is, because I feel like they should have been told this before this meeting, at the initial deferral, that they needed to meet with business owners. Because we keep moving the line. So, like, can we at least give them some idea of what the expectation is so that they know, and then when they come back, we're not moving the line again?
We're going to have to vote on the deferral and see where we land.
Okay.
Okay. The motion is to defer until the second meeting in January. Please cast your ballots. Oh, wait. Okay, don't vote yet then. Yes, you want to speak to the deferral?
Yes, I do.
I didn't see your light.
Okay. I'd like to ask the representatives, I'm sure you'd like to have this resolved tonight, but it looks like a deferral is likely. Other than the inconvenience of it, is there anything that goes bad in the meantime? Or can we?
Yeah.
Can you accommodate the deferral, even though you'd rather not have it, in that time frame?
Yeah, so we have a seller that's eager to get this done. Ida was anticipating us to have an answer for them on whether or not this special use permit was going to be granted. So we have to go back to Ida and restructure our meetings because of this. I mean, if you ask me, do I want it done tonight? Absolutely.
I understand.
Because now I have to go back to Ida and, explain. Other than that, I can just say, and I just want to make sure you understand, whatever the renovation costs is not going to cost the city of Peoria.
The only thing we can really talk about is the deferral.
Okay.
And that you've answered my question.
Okay.
I don't want to cut you off, but.
No, I understand, but I just,
we can't discuss the facts.
Okay, no problem.
I guess I think that's important for us to know, but, so, thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilman Carmona?
Thank you, ma'am. I think that it's logical to, and I wish this would have been done a little bit earlier. I do really appreciate what GROW is doing. Obviously, it's very important to try to help each other out to get on the right track. But I think it is very logical to. I mean, there's a special use requirement for a reason, I guess, and to speak to neighbors and just to put their mind at ease, I think would be very beneficial. I've been contacted by businesses that are, it's the fear of the unknown, and I just think a conversation would really go a long way to set some of those concerns at ease. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to Councilmember Carmona's point, I was at a neighborhood association meeting a couple weeks ago, and Mr. Holloway was there. There were no concerns, at least not raised at that meeting.
He's not what?
There were no concerns
Okay.
raised at that meeting
Okay.
at that particular time.
Okay.
No. And if you're familiar with the area, it's largely industrial. There's not very many houses around there, Madam Mayor. So I'm not sure what neighbors you're talking about. The closest neighborhood association, I was at their meeting a couple weeks ago. I didn't hear any major concerns. Mr. Holloway was there as well.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying
related
is,
to the deferral?
well,
What are you saying?
I'm just relating to his point. He said neighbors need to come and talk about it. I don't know what that had to do with the deferral.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's largely industrial. So where these neighbors are, I'm not sure, at least in close proximity.
Okay.
Now there are, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Councilman
Thank you,
Carmona?
Madam Mayor. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, what I meant by neighbors is the immediate, people, the businesses around there. I didn't mean neighborhood associations or residential. So, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. The motion is to defer to the second meeting in January. If this passes, hopefully we will have some action the second meeting in January without continued deferrals. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 1 nay. Allen. Madam Clerk?
If there isn't any additional unfinished business, we are now at new business.
Is there any new business? Do we have citizen comments? Thank you. No cards? No, I forgot. No cards, okay. All right, there are no citizen comments, so I would like to invite a motion to adjourn and to convene in closed session immediately following the adjournment of the city council meeting pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 122C11 to discuss pending litigation or probable or imminent litigation, and pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 122C21 for approval by the body of closed session minutes. Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Jackson Regenbach? Jackson Regenbach? Okay, thank you for your service. We are adjourned to closed session.